welcome to the 386th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I'm currently doing some classic, amazing Spider-Man comics from 1967, John Romita Sr., Stan Lee era, and I will occasionally do some off-of-mind topics and do other stuff, and et cetera, et cetera. More podcasts every single week. In case this isn't enough, it's there. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. And as I mentioned, if you're looking for just want to support, there's also purchasing podcast episodes at the Patreon, like some past Off My Mind episodes. I have them listed at the same price as a cup of coffee, so you can get access to that there and help support the show as well. What is going on this week? This week's movie feature is Wolfman. So I was a little disappointed. I'm going to put that out there right now. And we'll talk about that. We have Harley Quinn started up, season 5. So I did manage to watch it. I wasn't sure if I was going to, because the show, I think that it was Thursday, but then, we also had the finale of Silo, we had the finale of Skeleton Crew, finale of Creature Commandos, and then Severance started. So unfortunately, unless I go back and if I somehow manage to do it and then manage to edit and squeeze it in, I don't know if we're going to do Severance this week. That might be a little tough. And also, the other reason, aside from just trying to do that, is like what I just said. Creature Commandos, Skeleton Crew, and Silo, all those are gone. So next week's episode is just going to be Harley Quinn and Severance. If I don't do Severance this week, then it could be like 2 episodes next week, and Harley Quinn, because I think like the following week, the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man starting, and I know it's animated show, but yeah, there's I don't think there's anything else coming out this month, and then because Daredevil's, I don't think that's February, March. We'll see. I would like, and I'd like to talk about Severance, but I just don't know. I haven't watched it yet. So as I record this, but maybe tonight after, we'll see. Let's get into some news. Not a whole lot of news, and yes, I've said that before. But speaking of Skeleton Crew, it was weird on I forget what it was on Instagram. There was something I don't remember if it was Hollywood Reporter, Rolling Stone, or Entertainment, somewhere. One of the sites. They were just kind of talking to the kids from Skeleton Crew, and it was kind of weird seeing them like normal, like not in all their makeup and stuff like that. So that was I have to admit that at the beginning I was just like, oh, it's a show about kids, but they won me over. So you can hear more about that. But the creators, when asked about season 2, because I'm like, I was like, there's not gonna be what could there be season 2? The story's over and everything like that. But they said that they're dreaming of it. They're talking about some ideas, and it's just a matter of what does Disney, Lucasfilm, want to do? Do they want to do it? I have no idea how the numbers are and everything like that, but I haven't seen people like complaining about it. Like they seem to complain about everything Star Wars. So who knows? We'll see. I mean, it was fun. So why not? And if it is, I mean, maybe there's something about a younger audience. Do kids want that? And I would think so. And I think we need kids to watch that and keep things going and so forth. So we'll see. I mentioned Daredevil. I think I did. Daredevil Born Again. So there was a trailer, And lately, these days, I'm trying to. Sometimes I'm being selective. I'm trying to avoid trailers. Like one of the things I'll mention later is Wolfman. I actually never watched a trailer for it. I still haven't seen a trailer, so I don't really know how it was marketed. And I did that on purpose because with some of these things, like obviously Daredevil, I'm going to watch it. The Wolfman, it's Blumhouse. Of course, I'm going to watch it, especially since nothing else came out like competing against it. So I watched Daredevil. Of course, I'm going to watch Daredevil trailer. So it looks pretty cool. Now, one thing I didn't catch this, but I saw people talking about that at the part where Kingpin is addressing a crowd about whatever, giving a speech. There is a billboard for Harlem Paradise, which is where we saw that a lot in Luke Cage. So people are like, Luke Cage Easter egg, is he going to appear there? And who knows? But I mean. It was fine. The Luke Cage show, I haven't gone back like, I want to watch this again, but I wouldn't say no to more Luke Cage. So we'll have to see. Some rumors, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine. It's like people are talking about like, oh yeah, we're going to get Deadpool and Wolverine 2, or they're going to appear here. And then they're like, yeah, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Like Ryan Reynolds even said that, he probably doesn't want to do like another feature for a while because he actually wants to spend time with his kids and he doesn't want to miss out on big life events and all that. I think he's open to doing like an appearance, but not like a full-fledged carry the whole movie. So with that, if Deadpool and Wolverine were going to be like Avengers Doomsday, which I feel like that could be crazy. I mean, maybe it would be like a small cameo. What does that even mean? I don't even know. But yeah, people are saying that. And I never know what to make of these rumors. Like, are people just making stuff up or what? I don't know. Like there's another rumor, like Gwyneth Paltrow, Pepper Potts is going to be back. But it's like, why? Because, if Tony Stark is long gone and, I don't know. But, we still have Happy Hogan, right? So who knows? There are more rumors. Doctor Strange 3 and Shang-Chi, like they're probably not going to start filming until 2026. So next year. So that means they wouldn't land in theaters until 2027. Seems like a long time, but if we have Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars and maybe a couple other things happening, it makes sense that since they don't want to flood the market with too much stuff, that it could be a while. And hopefully that would give them time to, make sure, nail out a good script and just do everything, get done right, and not have to like rush. Like we got to get this done. But I also, speaking of Doctor Strange, I saw, I don't remember now if it was like Facebook or Threads or someone. They're like, it's confirmed, Strange Academy is happening. But I haven't seen anything else mention that because a lot of times with some of these things, like I don't want to click on it. I don't want to give you a page view if you're just making stuff up. So yeah, I'm just that way. So, yeah, because in the image, it was just like some made up image, and we saw Doctor Strange and Wong, and I don't remember who else was in there. So it probably wouldn't necessarily be like Strange Academy the comic because that I don't know if I would want that. So, I don't know. I don't know if we should talk. I kind of don't want to talk about Neil Gaiman, but there's been a lot of talk about Neil Gaiman, and it is disturbing. There's a big report. I started reading it. I think it was in Vulture. I started reading it, and then it's like, holy cow, this is going on forever. And it's disturbing to read the behavior, the way it was described, and the position, allegedly forcing himself on, taking advantage of the situation or just whatever different things. Apparently, Neil Gaiman has said that, this is not true, that, these stories are exaggerations or fabrications, and, he didn't say anything before or just like recently because he didn't really want to draw more attention to it. And he's like, I never forced myself on anyone. And so I don't know. This is one of those things where will we ever get the truth? I mean, if people weren't there to necessarily witness it, and that's the unfortunate thing. It's all the he said she said stuff, and it's the same thing with Blake Lively and that Justin Baldini whatever, which I'll get more about that. I guess I'll talk about that as well. So I don't know what to make. I've never I never interviewed Neil Gaiman. Never had a chance to talk to him, so I've never met him. I don't think I've ever been in the same room with him. So I really don't know what to make about it. And as a fan of Sandman and some of his novels, yeah, I would hope that it's not true. I would hope that no one is a gross scummy person. But you just never know. And sometimes people, I guess people just get money and power, and or maybe they're just disturbed and they think they can just do whatever they want. And again, I'm not saying that Neil Gaiman has done this because I have no idea, but it sounds like a lot of people are saying that. I really don't know. I haven't heard from any like direct sources like, yeah, I've kind of seen him acting like this or whatever, but it's just, ugh. So just people out there, especially dudes, it's like, be a good person. I mean, don't be gross, and don't be. I mean, don't be complete scum. That's all there is to it. Just do the right thing. With Blake Lively and Justin Baldini, he's like suing her now, countersuing, and it's getting worse and worse. And again, this is the he said, she said. We don't know. But from what, like, all the stuff that came out, like texts that he sent and like hiring a firm and doing a smear campaign, it's like, okay, that doesn't look too good. And then now he's trying to sue Disney because he's saying that in Deadpool and Wolverine that Nice Pool is supposed to be making fun of him, that they were bullying him. And so he's suing Disney because he's saying that there's probably like something mentioned in the scripts, like referencing him or something like that. But even if that were the case, I mean, isn't there such a thing as satire, where you can't sue someone for satire? His name was never mentioned. I didn't have a clue until someone's like, oh, maybe that's talking about him. But who else? He's suing someone else. He's trying to say that he was called to their apartment, or an apartment in New York, and Ryan Reynolds was there, and a super celebrity, mega celebrity, which was apparently supposed to be Taylor Swift, that she was mentioned later, talking about like some scene that Blake Lively rewrote, and they're like pressuring him into going along with it, and behind the writer, director, I don't know, all stuff like that. And so it's like, okay, so now he's trying to bring Taylor Swift into it. And as you're bringing all these people with like crazy lawyers, and not that that should matter. I mean, if there's some truth or whatever, but I think that the other thing is he's suing Disney. I don't know what studio put out this movie, but I feel like I mean, maybe Hollywood's not going to care or whatever, but I would think like other theaters, like, or other production, other studios, they might be like, yeah, I don't think we want anything to do with you right now, because it sounds like there's a lot of potential mess that we'd have to clean up. So again, whether he did anything or not, but the fact that he's suing everyone left and right, because he sued the Washington Post or whoever, New York Times, I forget who posted all this, facts, the texts that they've actually, uncovered. And it's just, I feel like and maybe because I think he's suing for like $250 million. Maybe he's like, okay, my acting career is over. Maybe it's not. I mean, people always seem to bounce back from doing bad things or questionable things, and whether he did or allegedly did. But maybe he's like, oh, if I can get $250 million, then I guess I'll retire or find a new gig or do something else. And not that even if, like, what chance would he have of winning, or even if there's a settlement? I don't know. It just seems nuts, and it's just like, that's not making him look good. It's just like, dude. And plus, there's stuff that he said and did, and it's just creepy. Whatever. There's a new Superman comic coming, Superman Unlimited. At first, I was like, do we really need another Superman comic? And I don't know a whole lot about this. I didn't read the full-on press release. I kind of skimmed it. But it's going to be Dan Slott writing, which is weird and cool, I like Dan. Dan, I haven't talked to him in person in a while. 2016, I think his last time was at New York Comic Con. He's always been super nice to me, and he's hilarious. I think he's a great writer. And yeah, I'm not super crazy about Spider-Boy now because I feel like it's not for me. It's for younger readers, which is totally absolutely fine. But I do really like Dan Slott. And I think it could be cool. What does he have to? What's he going to do with Superman? Because he's written a lot of good stuff, and I know he's gotten a lot of flack for some stupid reason. But I think that could be interesting. I always thought that he was like pure Marvel exclusive, like forever, because he's just been so happy there. But I guess the opportunity to write Superman and maybe something he's wanted to do for a while. So we have that. Rafael Albuquerque is going to be doing art, which is going to be amazing. And I don't know if this is just a mini series or obviously he's not going to do it forever. But the main thing that's going to happen in the story is there's like this huge kryptonite asteroid coming, and I guess people are going to like race to try to mine it and like black market stuff. And because if there's like, oh, there's all this kryptonite coming to Earth, we can use this against Superman and sell it. And I would be more concerned with people like, let's make kryptonite bullets, and then that's like horrible. And I don't like that. That's like the first thing I thought about, because it could be like, oh, I could just get like a kryptonite necklace and I can go rob a bank and not have to worry. But you never know. I didn't read all this, but Doctor Doom is going to be forming a superior Avengers. No. I mean, it's one thing, Superior Spider-Man works, as because it's Otto Octavius with his arrogant, stupid, whatever mindset, thinking that he's, could be a better Spider-Man. But the Superior Avengers, that doesn't even sound right. So, it's like the Doctor Doom stuff hasn't even really started yet, whatever this event is, and I'm kind of like already tired of it because it's been like just kind of in the shadows. So I don't know. So Andy Muschietti, I think that's how you say it, the director of The Flash, he commented on why he believes the Flash movie flopped. And he says, because people don't care about The Flash. Think about that. The Flash, no one cares about The Flash. Yet on the CW, The Flash was the longest running superhero show out of all of them. 9 seasons. 9 seasons. What show lasts 9 seasons? Not, there are some, but not many. 9 seasons, no one cares about The Flash, or no one gets The Flash, or whatever. I don't think I don't think it was a Ezra Miller thing necessarily. That played a little bit of it. I thought he was fine in the movie. I think the problem was because it was like the end of the Snyderverse, whatever world movie universe, and even though James Gunn's like he said it was a great movie, and he said you never know. I mean, people knew that was going to be it, and I think I if that was the case, I think that's silly, because for me, if like I'm going to see a superhero movie, Flash, I would go see it, and if it's a single one, I don't know, it just seems weird. Okay, then the last bit of news, which I don't even want to talk about this. David Lynch passed. So my buddy, actually, I was working, I checked message, and he sends me a link. I don't remember what article. He's like, WTF, David Lynch passed away. I was like, oh, man. And I haven't read anything further from that. His family put out like, please respect their privacy type of thing. We lost, the world is different, whatever. I'm pretty sure like he said he had emphysema like last year, and he smoked a lot. So it's he was 78. But it's still a bummer anytime we lose someone that we looked up to or did a lot of cool things. And I never had the chance to meet him, but if you know me, I mean, Blue Velvet, just even Dune. He did a lot of cool stuff, like a lot of cool movies. But for me, it's always been Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks, it's been like a huge, and it's still like such a major part of my life, like my essence, I would say. Even though it's meant so much to me, and I was just totally blown away when the show first started. And I remember, I know I've said this before, there was this like little clip on like MTV News or something like that where you see Kyle MacLachlan, Agent Cooper and the sheriff, they're in the morgue, and then Cooper digs under the fingernail, pulls out a letter, with the tweezers, and there's like a letter in there, and it's like, and the light, the overhead light's flickering, so it's just like weird mood and everything. And it's like, what is this about? I was like, I gotta watch this, and I just remember every, Thursday just watching this, and so this show, and then I remember when the show ended, it's such a huge cliffhanger, and then we found out there's going to be a movie, and I remember I got a chance to watch the movie early because I was working at a theater, and I talked to my manager. Was like, hey, can we, he just somehow he knew. So there's like they're gonna do a screening at one of the other theaters in the chain, and so we went there, and I was so excited to see it like 2 weeks early, and then when The Return came and on Showtime, all that was crazy, and then at Comic-Con, I got the chance to interview some, a lot of the actors from The Return, and so it was just, I just love that, and just everything about it, and it's not just David Lynch, Mark Frost, such a huge part of it, just the two of them together, they just created this amazing world and everything like that, and just everything, all the other stuff that David Lynch has done, it's just really sad. And it hit me hard, and I've been trying not to sit and dwell on it and think about it, because it's not like he was a family member, and not like, but still, it's just I just feel sad for his family, and just for the world, that if you just look at the stuff that he put out, it's just so Elephant Man, Eraserhead, it's just such visionary, So yeah, so we lost, someone special, and just have to move on, and we'll move on, because that is going to be the news for the week. All right, comic books. I feel like, I don't know if I read everything at Dynamite. There was a Space Ghost that came out, so it's continuing. Space Ghost is fighting that big, what was his name, Metalis. And it's pretty cool. I mean, there's something about seeing like all these like robots or creatures, like all trying to pile on Space Ghost, and him just like fighting them like a tank, and so it's a cool. I'm digging this comic, and I'm so glad that we have it. So you should be reading that. And I've always thought there's something cool about Space Ghost. I don't know. And I'm not talking Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I know a lot of people like that. I didn't like that because I thought it was a little too goofy. But the original Space Ghost, there's something about it. And yeah. At Image, we had G.I. Joe number 3. I thought this was fine. I think the one thing, it is cool that we got this new start, and now we got the teams forming, and everyone together is kind of putting the pieces, because we had the Cobra comic, we had Destro, we had Hawk, and then we have something else. There's Scarlet. I feel like there's something else, maybe not. So we're kind of seeing most of all that stuff put together, not necessarily Scarlet, and I feel like when it almost feels a little different, which it's like the flavor's like off a little bit compared to those comics, but I think the main thing I'm not super sold on, I'm not super gung ho about, is the whole Energon connection stuff. Maybe it's a way to say, oh, how can we have laser guns like in the cartoon, because that doesn't make sense. But then if you say, oh, it's because of the Energon, okay, but I don't know. It's so crazy, the character that died in the first issue, I don't know if I'm waiting for them to say like, no, fooled ya. But yeah, so it's good. We had I Hate Fairyland number 19. I need to get caught up with that. I think the last one I read was either 16 or 17. I'm not sure about that. Standstill number 6. So I tried reading it, and one, there was a matter of time, but I think because Andrew Robinson didn't do the art on this issue. So there's one issue. See, this is 6. It might have been like issue 4, something like that, where he did the art in the first part, and then it changed to another artist. And not saying that the other art wasn't good, but the main reason I was reading this is because of his art. That's what got my first attention. And then when the art changes, it throws me off. Even though, like I said, it's totally good art and passes whatever. It just feels off. Yeah, so I tried reading it, and maybe I didn't fully read the last issue. I don't know, because I was just like, I don't know if I know what's going on. And of course, I was like skimming it, which isn't helping everything. Walking Dead Deluxe 105. I need to get caught up on that because I'm a few issues behind now, and it's ridiculous because this is what happened to me before with Walking Dead. And Witchblade, I'm so behind issue 7. I think the last issue I read was 2. So that is pretty crazy. At Marvel, we had, I didn't read this, Alien Paradiso? Is that what it is? And I have no idea. I didn't read, I think I read one Aliens comic, but I didn't really, because for me, what's going to be my problem with this? My problem is going to be the color. And again, not saying that, see who did the color for this. Not saying that color can't be good, but it doesn't feel right for a Aliens story. See, Carlos Lopez. So looking at some of the preview pages, it's like the color looks well done. There's this creature. I'm looking at this image of like this alien, whatever, baby, not egg. It's not an egg. I don't know what you call it. But I don't know. It's almost like the colors are too vibrant. I feel like they should be more muted. And that's just a thing that I have with a lot of sci-fi comics. I don't know. It takes me out. And I don't know if it's just a weird thing. Amazing Spider-Man. I think this is issue 65 Point Deaths. I don't even know what the last issue is. Like, do we already have an issue 65? Because Marvel used to do these they were doing 0.1 issues. So you'd have like issue 30, issue 30.1, and then issue 32. Because, for a while we had the half issues, and then they, just getting ridiculous with these. I don't know why they're doing these. Well, I guess with one way is like, okay, we want to do another issue, but it's not like a full-on complete part of the series. It's not going to be like the main creators, but there's another little side story that we could tell, and it's a way to give someone else a crack at the title, at the characters. So we're going to call it point whatever, but then they stopped doing numbers and they would just do whatever the name of the event is, like issue 30 point Secret Wars or 30 point Death of the Family, which is just doesn't make any sense. This one, it wasn't one of the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man necessary story. I mean, it's still dealing with Spider-Man. I think he wasn't fighting any of the demons for like possibly dying and trying to save the world and all this. This is picking up from the last issue where Spider-Man's like, I'm done. I quit. I don't care anymore. And then Coulson, who is now so death or whatever aspect of death, and there's some talk with Coulson in that, and I love Coulson, I love Spider-Man, but it's just so we have that. Avengers Assemble number 5. Okay, so we have a Serpent Captain America, you see on the cover, and I'm not here for that. I'm not on board with that. I feel like this could be like, oh, it's like a callback or an homage or whatever. I don't know if it's intentional or not, to Capwolf. Was it Streets of Blood, Streets of Drugs, whatever that was. It that where Captain America turns into a wolf, and I thought that was totally cheesy. I did not like it, but because of the nostalgia cheesy thing is, I'm pretty sure I have a Cap Wolf Funko Pop because I was like, this is so ridiculous. I'm going to get this. Did I get that? I don't know. Is Captain America Serpent Cap? I don't even know. Cap Snake is what they're calling him on the cover. No. And this was getting to be like, okay, 5 issues in, and we're dealing with this Serpent Society, whatever they're calling themselves. I'm not really crazy about that. But then it turns out, I think this is the final issue, that this was just a mini-series. And they're like, the Avenger, what are they called? Oh, Avenge E.R.S. I forgot what that stands for. Will return in Astonishing Avengers, launching this month on Infinity Comics, Marvel Unlimited Infinity Comics. Read the first issue right now after redeeming the code in this issue. So I don't know why I don't do this. I have Marvel Unlimited, obviously, and I never read the Infinity Comics. I should be, if anything, I should be reading the It's Jeff comics. I tend to read them when they get collected and like released as a regular comic. I mean, I love Jeff the Landshark. I love Guri Hero's art, but I don't read the Infinity Comics. And I think when I see the covers or whatever, it almost feels like, I hate to say it, but it almost feels like it's not top tier art. It's a little less, and that, again, way better than what I could do, but it just doesn't quite feel the same. So I don't read that, and I'm like, I don't know if I need to read this. But if we're doing these stories in Infinity Comics, I don't know, but I don't feel like you should put like a main story just in a digital comic. Yeah, you want to get people to buy it and all that, but I think that there's still people. I mean, but we want people to buy physical comics. You know, we don't want that to completely go away. So I don't know. But the image they show is like Cap, She-Hulk, and Elektra Daredevil. It's like, okay, she's going to be in Avengers. But back to this issue. Yeah, so it concludes everything. Yeah, it was fine. It was okay. Exceptional X-Men number 5. I quit. So we see one of the new mutant trainees decides to quit. Why she decide to quit? I think, I don't know if it's spoiler or not, but Bobby Iceman was there, and it's like, wait, why is he showing up? What does he want? He and Kitty Pryde started getting in a discussion and everything like that, and she wasn't really happy with like why he's there and like what's going on. So she ended up getting a little heated, and she loudly talked about killing people during the fall of Krakoa at the end, when it was like war against Orcus and all that. And the new trainees, when they're like, holy crap, you killed people. And one of them is like, oh, you're a murderer, and like that. She's like, you lied to, you should have told us, or what? Not that she lied. I mean, she didn't say she never killed anyone, but if you're going to be trading with someone else, and then you find out, yeah, I killed several people. Now, at the same time, it seemed a little hypocritical, because, this is a different world, and, they've seen some of the hate and just like whatever directed towards mutants. And if she said she killed people, it's like, it should be like, wait, why? Were you just walking down the street just like, hey, I'm going to kill you? Or was there some sort of war situation, which is kind of how it was. Maybe Kitty could have done things a little different, but yeah, it was war. They were kidnapping mutants, and I assume, mutants were getting killed and all that. And I'm not saying that was the only thing that could have been done, but the fact that someone just leaves, and you don't know the full details. Did she have a choice? Yeah, I think so, but they don't know that. So, and then things, I won't mention anything else. I don't want to spoil this issue, so there's that. The Incredible Hulk, issue 21, this is still, I'm not reading this. It's still more of the same. Immortal Thor. I was thinking, it's like, well, maybe I should start reading Immortal Thor, because I haven't been reading it. This, issue 19. But then looking at the cover, an all-star roster of artists joins Al Ewing to bring you Tales of Asgard. So when I see Tales of Asgard, that means like random old stories, old tales that are just like fill in things. Because the thing, if you're going to tell a story like, oh, here's a lost adventure of Spider-Man, okay, not, maybe he's going to fight a cool villain, or it's going to be a cool fight, but nothing major is going to come out of this. I could be wrong. Laura Kinney, Wolverine, number 2. So you can see on the cover, she's going up against Daredevil, Elektra Daredevil, and not that they're kind of fighting each other, but not really. It's a matter of Laura finding out that there's a mutant in danger and stuff going on, and she leads her to Hell's Kitchen, which is Elektra's territory, and stepping on each other's toes and all that. But Laura wants to do the right thing, and she's not going to leave any mutant behind, type of thing. So it's like they have to work together, even though like Laura doesn't want to work with anyone, and there's. Yeah, so Elektra's kind of understanding because she's like, oh yeah, you definitely are a Wolverine, and because she knows what he's like, and so it was fine. Miles Morales Spider-Man, no, I actually skimmed it. I said it's like, no, I'm not going to read it. I still got it and read it, and Rogue Savage Land, number 1. So I'm like, all right, here we go. What is this about? For some reason, well, I guess it's obvious reason. There's been this fascination with Savage Land Rogue, and it's weird in a way. Is it just because Rogue is scantily clad? She's not really wearing much, but at the same time, majority of Rogue, she's always been in a skin tight suit, so you can see her curves. It's just in this, you can see more flesh versus that. Does that make a difference? Maybe. And I don't think that's the whole reason people, I don't know. What do I know? So we got this story, so I'm like, oh, maybe she's going back to the Savage Land or whatever, but then it's like, no, this is like a lost story. So then it's like, well, what's the point then? And maybe I'm being a little harsh, but I guess that if some people, like, if there's an interest, then it's like, yeah, what else happened? Is there more to the story? Then, can you fill in the blanks without, like, forcing stuff too much? So I just read it, and, I mean, am I going to read issue 2? I don't know. And I legit mean that it's going to be a matter of the week it comes out. How many other books came out? Am I caught up or not, or am I falling behind? And then maybe I'll like pass on it. See, we got Spirits of Vengeance. I'm not reading that. Storm. I didn't read that. Star Wars Battle of Jakku. I didn't read the last issue, and I felt like, I don't know if it's coming out weekly, but I feel like it just came out. Ultimate Wolverine, number 1. I did not love this. Again, I'm going to be perfectly honest. It was, I think, for in some ways, as I'm so articulate, it's because it's the Ultimate Universe, so there's going to be this obviously big similarities. So it's just like Wolverine getting taken, being used as a weapon, etc., etc. But there's some little different elements as well because it's a slightly different world and all that. And it just, I don't know. I wasn't getting super excited yeah. I mean, I'll definitely read the next issue, but I was just, I think because we get into, in my opinion, we get into like dangerous territory if we're fleshing out the Ultimate Universe some more. It's like how many books do we need? You're going to start doing ultimate this, ultimate that, and then at its heart, the different characters are very similar, but there is that opportunity to do different tweaks to them. But then it's like, are those differences enough to justify, like, why am I getting this book if it's just more of the same? There is already a Wolverine comic, at least one. We get these various, like, there was a Deadpool and Wolverine comics like 2 weeks ago or something like that. So we have the main Wolverine comic. I think there's just one main Wolverine. And then, we even have Laura Kinney Wolverine. So we got all this stuff. Now we're having Ultimate Wolverine. So it's like, do we really need another Wolverine book, even if it's in the Ultimate Universe? And even if, spoiler, they're like referring to him as a Winter Soldier or whatever. Yeah. So, well, we'll see. I mean, I didn't like despise it or hate it or anything like that. It just, for me, it was just fine. It's like, I don't know if we need this, if I need this, and I hate saying that. A friend of mine really enjoyed it. He thought it was off to a good start. So, that there's that. It's just my opinion. So, let me know what you thought. Oh, and I did read NYX, last week's book that I had to talk about. I thought it was a little annoying. So it was like Sync versus Prodigy, and just Sync being like just a major jerk. But there's one thing, he was like mimicking Laura's powers, and then he pops some claws, but it looked like he's popping adamantium claws, and it's like, is that how his power works? I get that he can copy people's powers or whatever, but can he copy metal claws? I don't understand that. I read What If Galactus Transformed Gambit? So that was last week's book. And basically, the reason Galactus wanted Gambit is he needed his skills to steal something for him, to steal a planet. And it was a planet. How could he steal a planet? It's because it has to do with the Collector. And that was just kind of weird. This week we have What If Galactus Transformed Moon Knight. And it starts off because first Galactus goes to Khonshu, and Khonshu's like, I'm a god, dude. I'm not going to be your lackey or whatever. But then Galactus is like, oh yeah, I'm who I am, and things don't go too well for Khonshu. Khonshu's like, Moon Knight, help me, avenge me. Yeah, it's just kind of weird. And then I didn't read Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man because I didn't read the first issue. I kind of skimmed the first issue. I think I just kind of looked at it, and it's like I want to watch the cartoon, so I don't know if these issues are adapting episodes of the cartoon, if it's in between, if it's like a prologue. I don't know what it is, so it's like I don't want to take away the fun, or I don't want to be caught off guard. At DC Comics, New Gods #2. I'm trying to think. I think I did read New Gods #1. I didn't read New Gods #2. I missed it. So I was like, huh. Titans #19. So two things. One, I was getting rushed for time because I wanted to start recording this now, and I was just like, I haven't been liking I'm trying to think of how the last issue was. I'm pretty sure I must have read issue 18, but I should go back and read this issue. But I was just like, I don't know if I want to read it because I feel like I've been so let down. I almost passed on Green Lantern Fractured Species, but then it's like the next event starts here or whatever, and things are being set up here. We're seeing the lanterns are back. Somehow, like the Guardians are back, but they're not really doing a whole lot. The United Planets has fallen. I missed all that stuff somehow. I guess I don't know what I wasn't reading. And the lanterns, the battery's gone, but they're rebuilding the battery somehow. I don't know if I didn't realize it'd be that easy. And then that Sorrow dude comes. So Carol Ferris, I was like, not Carol Danvers, but Carol Ferris's ex-fiance who she left for Hal, and he gets these sorrow powers, so he's all mopey and emo, and yeah, so we have that. Batman and Robin Year One. This is, Mark Waid and Chris Samnee. This is such a fun book. The only thing is, it's throwing me off a little bit, is Dick Grayson, Robin, is being such a jerk. I get that he's young, he's excited, he's impulsive and all that, but it's almost like he's just really pushing things. And because when he's going out, this is like the first time he's going out with Batman, and he's trying to set like limitations and rules, and Robin is just like jumping head first into stuff like that because he's just so excited and everything. And yes, he has a lot of skill to back it up, but it's like he should know better. And the more important thing is they get visited by the social worker. She like pops in, and they're just barely back from the night before, and it's almost like Dick is like arguing things, and it's like, do you want to live there? Because one, it's like, do you want to be Robin? He's obviously enjoying it. So if he wants to be Robin, you got to follow rules. And then it's like, do you want to live with Bruce Wayne, or do you want to end up like in some other foster home? If you want to live there, you have to follow some rules. You got to do certain things. And if they're going to lie to put on this whatever pretense that everything's fine, then you got to do that. But he just doesn't seem to get that. And I get that, they're trying to push that he's an impulsive young, kid, preteen or whatever. But I think he also has to see that he's jeopardizing being allowed to stay there. That's just my thoughts on it. World Finest, Batman, Superman, World's Finest. I started reading this, and then it just, I don't know, it kind of threw me off a little. I wasn't really that interested. I wonder, did I even finish this? Because it was, we saw, I started skimming it. There's a lot of Robin and Aquaman, Batman, but it just wasn't quite doing it. I need to get caught up on The Question All Along the Watchtower, because I think this is like the third issue came out. I'm hearing good things about that. Jenny Sparks, issue 6. Like, how many issues is I got to get caught up in that. Nightwing, number 122. This is a good, I like the new direction and everything, but it's starting to get to the issue that I've been having recently, where we're getting these like long running villain story arcs, or not necessarily villain, in this case, but this just nemesis, whatever the situation, it's getting drawn out. And there's one thing to be able to fully flesh out a story and tell all that, but I kind of don't like it when you have a book and the hero is dealing with the same character for like 8 months or something like that. It's like, I want to see something else. I want to see them, saving someone from getting their purse snatched, or just do something. I don't know. It's still a good issue. Action Comics. What issue is this? 1082. So I was like, all right. I start reading it, and then it's like, this takes place before Absolute Power, and then I'm like, nope. If that's the case, that means this is taken, all this stuff, it doesn't matter. It already happened. And now they're trying to tell us like, oh, here's a comic before all that. And, I was thinking, it's like, oh, hey, new story arc, new direct, whatever, because I wasn't super crazy about some of the Action Comic stories, last few whatever issues. But then it's like, you're telling a story that took place how long ago? And it's that thing. Is anything that happens here going to change anything? We have Challengers of the Unknown. I didn't read that because I missed the first issue. And then Nice House on the Lake, or Nice Place on the Lake. I forget what that is. That came out. I fell behind on that. And that is it. Yeah, I didn't read anything else. So that's going to be comics for the week. Okay, Creature Commandos, season finale, season 1, episode 7, a very funny monster. I guess I'll say this at the beginning. I ended up liking the series more than I thought, because I was very not excited for it, because I'm just like, why do we have these? I think it's been fine. But the problem is, we don't have likable characters. That's kind of the point. There are monsters, but I feel like with especially these kind of like origin episodes, where we're supposed to see that they're not necessarily just monsters, that they actually have a story to them, and that's supposed to make us care a little bit more about them. But I don't know, because like some of them, I just even looking at like Dr. Phosphorus' stuff, like what he went through, what happened, I still think he's kind of a jerk now, and maybe it's because of what happened, but that's still whatever. Let's just get into it, and then we'll go from there. So it starts off, a woman's giving birth, and it's a girl. But the father kind of gasps when he sees her, and then later the doctor tells him that she has many irregularities, among which seems to be her lungs are mostly outside her body. The mother's just kind of like sitting on the floor, like kind of, with knees to her chest, like she can't believe this is happening. But the doc says that she doesn't know how long that they can keep her alive, because this is beyond her, but the father, is one of the world's foremost scientists, so maybe he can develop a way to keep her alive. And then, he's like, Nina, her name is Nina, because, doctor just keeps referring to as her or whatever. And then the mom seems kind of surprised, because, like, she hadn't even thought about, like, what her name's going to be. And then it cuts to Frankenstein. He's talking to someone. He's like, by her very name, she belongs to me, don't you think? He's in the back of a cab. He's like, the bride, her skin shivering, parched cerulean, her iris is like 2 dollops of virgin's blood, her lips carved from the cushiony intestines of a fetal pig. Once I stop her from making this massive blunder, murdering the princess, an innocent like herself, and the beloved of my dearest friend, Richard Flagg. I call him Rick. Everyone calls him Rick. Like, she will doubtlessly fall into my arms, and our heretofore screwball romantic comedy will become pornography. But the tender, soft focus kind, made for chicks. He's like, how long until we arrive at the castle, eh? And then we see the driver's face. He's like sweating. He's like white. He's like scared and everything like that. He's like, not long. So a guard in the tower is keeping watch for the monsters. Sergei says that 4 of them are still alive. As far as they know, they're on their way to kill a princess. And then suddenly Weasel appears like right in front of the guard and his binoculars. So the bride somehow gets up there. She grabs his throat. And she jumps through the window. Meanwhile, Frankenstein's cab pulls up. He gets out. He hears screaming. He looks up and he sees the bride smashing the guard's face against like the stone ledge of the window. And he smiles. Still up to your old tricks, my immorata. So the others enter the tower. Nina tries stepping like over the blood on the floor, and she asks Bride, what did he ever do to her? And she's like, you saw the hat, right? Because he's got his big whatever fuzzy hat. So then they walk to the video monitors. Nina asks, why are they doing this? And Bride's like, he's like, why? And Nina's like, well, what if they're wrong? What if, they kill all these people? What if we kill the princess for no reason? And Foster's like, then c'est la vie. It's like, there are billions of humans in the world. Who will notice? A few less, right? Right, Wheeze? And he's just lightly kind of snarls. He's like, see, he doesn't care. And Nina's like, he doesn't know what you're saying. And Bride's like, Nina, Waller believes the princess is going to bring about the end of the world as we know it. And she believes her source is credible. Isn't any risk worth stopping that? And Nina's like, I don't know. I guess. What are you doing? And Bride's like, trying to find a path into the castle that isn't swimming with gods. And then Phosphorus looks at a feed from the past few days, because maybe they'll show another way in. And he's like, what the hell is that? Like 2 days ago. And Nina's like, seems like we're not the prince's only monstrous visitors. So there's this bright light, but it's clearly Clayface. So it's like, okay, what does that mean? Then Frankenstein pops into the window after climbing up the wall. He's like, my love, the princess. Bride shoots him a few times. He screams out, whatever. Guards down below here. Phosphorus like, paramour of yours? And the bride's like, oh, can it, Ghost Rider? So she calls him Ghost Rider, even though that's Marvel. So Nina's like, we better get out of here in case somebody heard the shots. Bride suggests the wall at the back of the garden because it has it seems to be the least protected. Frankenstein's gasping on the ground outside, like on the he fell out the window. He's got like 3 big like gunshots to his chest. Bride leaps down from the window. He like gasps, and he's like, Rick Flag. So she raises her big pistol. She's like, save it for hell, you stalker piece of poop, and she shoots him. Then she spits on him. Nina sees guards coming up along the wall, like on the ledge or whatever on the top. So she grabs Bride's hand and they run. I'm not sure how they got down from the tower so fast because the bride leaped out, but the others were there like boom. So there's a flashback. Nina has a mask over her mouth and a device like on her torso. She crawls. She picks up like the stuffed caterpillar, whatever, holds out to Dad, and he's reading the newspaper. Mom's just like staring on the sofa. And so Dad, he chuckles. He picks her up. Mom gets up, covers her mouth, and leaves the room crying. He goes after her in the kitchen, and she's crying in the sink. That is not a life. He's like, what? That she's a happy Lily. She's having fun. Then she's like, today, what about tomorrow? When she starts crying because she's outgrowing the machine and it's digging into her body. And he's like, then I'll build her a new one. And Mom's like, and a new one, and a new one after that. It weighs as much as she does. And he's like, she's strong. And she's like, we made a terrible mistake, Edward. We could have taken her off those machines. And he's like, don't say that. And she's like, she wouldn't have to. don't say that. And she's like, we still could. He's like, no. Lily, no. She's our baby girl. And she's like, she's yours. He's like, Lily. It's like, she doesn't even look at me. And he's like, because you don't look at her, Lily. And then she's like, don't you dare. And so Edward, the father, he's like, she can feel these things. She's an intuitive child. So the mom's like, yes, fine. So maybe it's best that he's like, what? And she's like, I love you, Edward, but you're torturing us both, all three of us. He's like, Lily, please. She's like, I'm going to stay with my mother for a while. And she walks out. Like, Nina falls back because she's kind of possibly like reaching for her mom as she passes by. So in the present, the commandos make their way towards the wall. Phosphorus sneaks up behind a guard, covers his mouth, and then just like melts the bottom half of his head. So it's like so violent. It's like, is that really necessary? Then he puts his hands on a wall to like melt through, and he says, this may take a while. So then I guess Nina's like thinking back some more. So another flashback. She's a little older. She has a bigger breathing suit. So Edward's like walking her to the park, and she seems tired, I think. So he tells her not to worry because he has a new treatment that they're going to try, and that means that she won't have to wear the machine any longer. Then we see him prepping her for surgery, and he's like, yes, there are risks involved, but if it pays off, poor sweet Nina won't need to lug around an extra 30 pounds of metal to stay alive. And he's like, we're transforming her very DNA to help her breathe despite the fluid in her lungs. She's on a medical table with a robotic arm with needles. An alarm goes off. He like panics at the monitors. So I don't know if it's a doctor or nurse calls out to him. So Nina's convulsing. So then the nurse or doctor is like, what's happening? And her hand like kind of like starts to web up between her fingers, and her skin starts turning greenish. Gills form on her neck, like fins pop out of like the side of her head. Then her eyes change, like just go like all black, whatever. And Edward's like, no, it's like, get her out of this. So he picks her up, unhooks the wires on her, goes to the prep room, sticks her in the sink, and turns on the water. So Nina's like gasping. Nurse comes up behind him, and she's like, you're gonna drown him. And he like has to shove her away. Then his eyes go wide as the water's like filling, and she's becoming completely submerged underwater. Then her eyes close. So it's like, is she dead? But then she like gasps, and they all look at her, and she's like, Daddy? In the present, Sergei is talking to the Armor Knights. Princess walks by. He goes after her, asking like where she's going, and she says for her morning swim, like she always does. He asks her, he's like, are you sure that's wise? And she sighs, asks if they have knights surrounding the perimeter. He's like, da. Then they're keeping her safe. She says she will not cower, and what kind of example would that be for her people? So he just says that her people are not here. It's just them soldiers. And she goes up some stairs to the pool. She's just ignoring him. She's gonna do what she's gonna do. Phosphorus, he melted a hole in the wall, so they crouch behind some trees. They're behind some guards. They can see her, and Weasel starts like whimpering, and Nina has to like hold him down when he tries to go to her. She tells Bride that Weasel, he's excited to see her because she's like, remember she played fetch with him for like hours? And Bride's like, oh God. And then Phosphorus like, should we put him down? And Nina and Bride both say like, no. He's like, geez, calm down. It's like just brainstorming. And then Nina's like, shh. She's like, be good, Weasel, be good. So flashback at school, Edward's talking to the principal, and they're in her office, and Nina's just like looking out the window. Principal's like, and she always has to wear that? Because she has a helmet with a tube like coming out. And he's like, my primary work, as you may know, is biogenetics. So she says that she's well aware, profoundly appreciative of his work. And she's like, I know how the rice you genetically engineered has helped feed nations. So he says Nina from birth had issues with her lungs. She wasn't able to breathe properly. So he tried to infuse her biology with elements of aquatic animals, thinking that would... And he's like, well, she's no longer in pain, but she can only breathe underwater. And she's been homeschooled. She speaks 4 languages, and she's well-versed in Shakespeare and calculus. But I thought she might be better off attending school with other children for socialization purposes. He's like, I mean, honestly, she's only really known me. The principal's like, being that she's his daughter, they'd love to welcome Nina to Emberton Prep. So Edward tells Nina to thank Principal Gale. Gale asks if she has any questions for her. About the school, and then pointing a photo on the wall. Nina's like, how do you play that game? So it's lacrosse. So then we see her later, she's on the lacrosse field. The ball like hits the front of her helmet, and then said it was on purpose. She gets like bumped and then like knocked down, and a girl calls her a fudging frog, and the other girls laugh. Then we see her walking down the hall. This bald kid goes up to her, say ribbit, witch, ribbit, ribbit. This other kid joins in, say ribbit, say ribbit. And then they're like, what does that mean in your language? So she walks away, and they grab her and slam her against the locker. And the kid's like, I said ribbit, ribbit, witch. And she just puts her head down, and then she quietly says, ribbit. And then the two losers laugh, and Nina cries, which is like just horrible. Waller's reading a magazine. She's sitting in Rick Flag's hospital room. He starts to wake up, and the man is like, what happened? And he's like, you were wrong. And she's like, what? He's like, killing Ileana. You are wrong. And she's like, how so? He's like, Mech, listen, it wasn't Mech. And he's out. And she curses. So she calls Economos and asks if he has Professor McPherson's address. So I don't know how she got that when he's like, Mech. I guess McPherson would. Outside the castle, commandos see Liana like way up high. She's about to like dive into a pond or pool. I don't think it's a pool. Weasel's like getting antsy. There's lots of guards around the water. Nina asks like, how the heck are they going to get to the princess with all these guards? And the bride just looks at Nina and she's like, what? So flashback in school, walking down the hall, a boy a couple lockers down like smiles at her, then waves at her as he leaves, and she kind of blushes. And then she opens her locker and is surprised to see like a frog sitting there on top of her books. The kids around her laugh, including the smiling boy. So cut to her home. I guess she's home. She's in her room. She's crying at her desk. Dad comes home, calls out to her, and then he's surprised to see her window open. So it's like, wait, why didn't she just go out the front door? But she left a note. Dear Daddy, I love you more than anything in the world, and I am so grateful for everything you've done for me. But I do not belong, nor have I ever, in the world of humans. I want to be free, and I want to free you of the burden that I know I am and have always been. I love you, Daddy. You could not have been a better father. All my love, Nina. So he runs outside. He's in the rain. He's like looking for any sign of her. He falls to his knees. Nina. She like went through the sewers. Like she like shed her clothes and her helmet, and she like dives into like a reservoir or something like that, some like body of water. And then there's a shot of her like her swimming. It changes to the princess swimming, and then she's like, "What?" And the bride's like, "It needs to be you, Nina." And Nina's like, "Me? What?" The bride's like, "You need to kill the princess. The only way to get her is under the water." And she's like, "No fudging way. Weasel like whimpers. Foster's like, "The bride is right. Wait until she dips under, then do it." And she's like, "Do what?" And the bride's like, "Stab her." And Nina's like, "Stab her?" And the bride's like, "Yep. Then we'll come straight back and we'll go out the way we came." And she's like, No. She's like, I don't know how to kill someone. So the bride pulls out a blade. She's like, "You shove the blade into her belly, you twist." It's like, "The water is your home field advantage. She won't even see you coming." And Nina's like, "Bride, I don't." And then Foster's like, "You heard Waller. Killing her is the only way to save the world." And the bride's like, "At the end of the day, Nina, it's just another human out there in the pond. But you're a monster, like us." And she's like, Nina's like, "You said I wasn't a monster." And the bride's like, "I was lying because I'm a witch." She shouldn't say witch. So then she puts a hand on Nina's shoulder. She's like, "You're the biggest freak of us all." And she's like, "Oh." And Foster's like, "I know you can do it, kid." So then she just clenches the knife and she heads for the water and goes under. And I think Foster's like, did that sound sincere? Because he doesn't care. So flashback, she catches a fish, she climbs on a rock, she takes a bite. Then there's like a flash and then more flashes. Someone's taking pictures of her. So breaking news, Star City, sea creature, real or fake? So the reporter says that for years there's been reports of a quote-unquote sea creature living in their sewers and their water supplies. Tonight they have what some people are calling proof. Others are calling it an elaborate hoax. It's like, this photo was taken by a local photographer who claimed to be out searching for night birds. So her dad sees a report and he knows it's her. So animal control experts from Metropolis Blood have been brought in to help track down and capture the beast. Then we see her, she's swimming. She gets captured in a net, like so easily. Then on land, there's a bunch of people like waiting to take pictures. Edward pushes his way through. He's like, "Nina, stop, let her go. She can't breathe air." So he pushes an like officer or animal control guy down or whatever. He moves forward, but then he gets grabbed again. a couple like draw out their guns, and he is out, Nina. It's like, you were never a burden. So he shoves the guy down, and then the gun guy yells, like, step back. Edward continues, like, you were the greatest gift. And then pew, he gets shot in the back, which is like so insanely stupid. It's like, why would anyone shoot in the middle of a crowd and also like risk shooting the creature? Because I'm sure, they'd want to study it or do something. So there's like literally another dude that was standing right next to like kind of like off to the side. And he was just sitting there watching the exchange and not doing anything. So Edward falls back. Nina gasped. The crowd is pretty shocked, and there's some of them are giving like the cop the side eye. They're like just glaring because he just shot this innocent, unarmed person. Nina's grabbed. She gets taken to a truck which has like a water tank in the back, and there's muffled screams. She's looking out the tanks. Then Nina swims underwater in the present. She's got the knife, so she's heading towards the princess. So Waller and Economos arrive at McPherson's, and he asks what's up. And she's like, I don't know. Flag said McPherson is not McPherson. And he passed out again. It's like, did he really say that? He's like, but Professor McPherson, she's the whole reason we believe Cersei. And Amanda's like, I know, John. And he's like, if Cersei isn't telling the truth, we're starting a war with Pocolistan for no reason. She's like, I know, John. Because again, he keeps saying the obvious, and I don't know if he's saying it for our sake. And then she kicks the door open, and it's weird that she doesn't have any guards or anything with her, because she's a high-ranking. So it's just weird that there's no one there to protect her besides John Economos. So they see parts like Clayface splattered against the wall, like some splatter on the floor from getting electrocuted or whatever. So then Mr. Obvious decides to talk. Clayface, he's a shapeshifter. So does Amanda not know that? It's like, why wouldn't she? And so then she sniffs, and then it's like, oh no. She runs upstairs. She sees McPherson's dead body, like throat slashed, flies buzzing about, and she's like, oh no, we've been set up, but by that damn witch. It's like, we need to stop them from killing the princess now. So Nina's down deep. She swims up towards Ilana. Inside, Sergei's watching, or he's standing in a window. He's told Amanda Waller's on the phone for him. Ilana is doing the backstroke. Nina is swimming underneath her, like on her back, like kind of looking up. Weasel's whimpering. He thinks back to them playing fetch and her petting him, and then him licking her face. So then he runs to the water. Ilana sees him stop swimming. Then she looks down and she sees Nina below the water. So Nina thrusts the blade up, but Ilana grabs both her wrists and pushes her down. They both go underwater. Phosphorus grabs Weasel, because I don't know if he was drowning or whatever. He calls him a stupid brat. And then Weasel bites his wrist, super hard, super crazy, whatever. Phosphorus screams. The bite kind of burns Weasel's mouth. Two guards hear Weasel. Ileana is struggling underwater with Nina. Nina lets go of the blade, and Ilana grabs it and stabs Nina 8 times or so. And she has this completely wicked look on her eyes. Nina's body floats to the surface, and the bride runs to the water. She's shocked to see Nina. She's like, no. Knights raise their weapon. Sergei yells, halt. Then he comes out towards the bride with the phone. It's for you. So he hands her a phone or a radio, and Waller speaking. It's like, we made a mistake. So Ilana comes out of the water, and somehow she's covered in blood. It's extra sticky blood, because if you came out, the water would kind of wash off, and not completely the first time, but most of it would. So she looks at the bride, and she walks right past her. The bride grips the phone, crunch. So Phosphorus holds his later. He holds his bitten wrist. He's feeling some pain, but he's sitting inside next to the bride. And then some knights are kneeling around Weasel. Sergei's like, you're a great hero. Another's like, you saved the princess. And Sergei's like, we will build you a monument in your honor. Phosphorus he gets a fish girl killed, tears apart my arm, and somehow he's the freaking hero? The bride's like, you want the knights to pet you, Phosphorus? And he's like, well, yes. If their hands wouldn't burn off, maybe. It's like, you know what it's like to not be touched for 15 years? And she's like, yeah, I do. So she gets up. He asks where she's going, and she's like, I'll be back. In the hall, she sees the princess, Ileana. She like turns, so Bride follows her. Ileana's like, I understand why you did what you did. And Bride's like, yeah? She's like, you thought you were saving the world and you were following orders. I understand. I do not hold it against you. That sorcerer Circe tried to frame me. Who knows why? Jealousy, perhaps? She's probably the one who truly wants to destroy the world, don't you think? And the Bride's like looking at books on the shelves, and she's like, no. And Ileana's like, excuse me? And Bride's like, no, I don't think Circe wants to destroy the world. I think she was telling the truth about you. So Ileana kind of chuckles. She's like, ha, you're funny. A very funny monster, name of the episode. What do you think you were saying to me? And Bride's like, I saw a clay face on the tapes. And Ilana's smile falls a little behind Bride's back. So there's a flashback when they're, looking at the screen. There's, big flare, but, you can see Clayface is like standing next to her, Ileana. So she's like, first you seduced Flag to get him on your side. Then after we captured Circe, you suggested we kill her. That would have taken care of everything. And she takes on like a Mary Shelley book. But Flag, despite him being an old rube, hung up on your charms, refused, so you sent one of your knights to spy on us. So Sergei's dressed like a U.S. soldier when the commandos land at the airstrip. He must have seen McPherson visit Waller, someone would back up Circe's story, so your only choice was to get your friend Clayface, to make it look like she wasn't who she was, even though she was who she was when she and Waller spoke. And Ileana's like, this is all nonsense. And Bride's like, malarkey. It's like, you were who Circe said you were all along, a power-mad, sadistic, narcissistic Disney princess who wants to destroy the world. So Ileana's just like stares at, because she has like this gun in her drawer. The Bride continues, she's like, but I want you to know I'm not going to kill you because you're going to cause World War III, and I'm not doing it to save the world. I mean, after all, what has this ball of dirt ever done for me? No, Ileana, I'm killing you because you took the life of the only friend I have, and the only one of us with an ounce of kindness in her veins. Ileana like reaches for the gun in the drawer, but then Bride shoots her smack in the center of the forehead, and then she holsters her gun. She walks by Phosphorus and Weasel. She's like, let's go. Best make it fast. So this dude comes up to Bride and says, like, oh, I have some questions. And she grabs him by the face, slams him down. And then they walk outside. Bride has tears, like, streaming down her face. Phosphorus pats her on the shoulder. And back at the base, Bride and Economos are in an elevator. And he's like, dang, all it took was some haughty princess to turn Flag into a complete moron. Dudes, am I right? And then she's like, sure, John. And he's like, anyways, I know Waller has a reputation as a hard ass, but she knows how to express gratitude when it's deserved, and you really saved the day. So we converted one of the abandoned wings for you and your team. And she's like, my team? So he opens a big vault door, and she sees like Phosphorus playing ping pong with that bat lady who was like picking on Nina. Someone's like sitting in a chair, couldn't really tell who it was. Weasel's just like licking himself, and then there's like a huge robot who walks up to her. GI robot reporting for service, ma'am. King Shark's sitting on the floor making like a tower with like teepee or something like that, and then he laughs at her because says that she has like a dumb haircut. And then Econo's like, well, you in? And she's like, what else do I gotta do? And that's the end. But then there's after credit scenes. Frankenstein is bandaged up, he's eating soup, and he's like, when you think about it, if she didn't love me much, why would she overreact as much as she did, right? Now I'm only more sure of the connection we have. What kind of soup is this? And the lady, I don't think it was that one lady, I don't know if it's a different lady, but she's like, sparrow dropping soup. And he's like, well, it tastes disgusting. And she's like, yes. And then that's the end. I was like, okay, that's it. So it was fine. I'm assuming it's on purpose because, again, Nina was the best of them. So it is a bummer that she's dead. And I feel like, we didn't get to really see her do as much as we could have. But I guess she's gone. So that's Creature Commandos. So there's only 7 episodes. It was weird because normally it'd be like 8 episodes or 10, but they only went with 7. So that's Creature Commandos. Right, Star Wars Skeleton Crew, Season 1, Episode 8, The Real Good Guys. So as I mentioned, I think in the beginning, I enjoyed the series. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm surprised at how much I liked it. That with these kids, 'cause I feel like they were annoying, but I think that's also and it made it different. And they handle it in a way that the kids, they were good actors. I feel like they handle it well, where the kids felt like they could do anything because they were untouchable, and then at one point they kind of realize they're in way over their heads, and some things were a little too easy and convenient, but I think they did a good job overall. So it starts off picking up from last episode. The lightsaber ignites, and then I think it was Neil's mom's like, "Emissary, how can we thank you?" And he's like, "Reuniting families is all part of what I do." So the kids just like silently stare at him because they don't want to. They can't say anything. So, but like, don't any of the adults think it's weird that he's just standing there with the lightsaber on? And then he's like, "Jad Na Wood at your service." So he turns off the lightsaber. Farah, Fern's mom, is like, "Are they in any trouble?" And he's like, "I'm afraid they are. Stealing a ship, breaking just about every security protocol at Atten, and its safety should be your top priority." So Farah's like, "I take full responsibility. Thank you again. We don't want to interfere with your offloading duties." And then, she's like trying to like take them away, or take, Fern away. And he's like, "Confine them to their quarters, and I want these droids to keep an eye on them and report back to me on their behavior." Which that seems really weird. It's like, okay. Then they're like, "Yes, emissary." And Wendell's like, "Is that totally necessary?" So it's like, yeah, for once I agree with Wendell. And Jod's like, "Yeah, I'm afraid it is. I insist. These are serious violations." And he kind of chuckles. He's like, "I got to see firsthand just how troublesome they could be on our little adventure home, didn't I, Wim?" And Fern's like, "Yeah, we were way too troublesome." And Farah looks at her, and Fern quietly says to her, "It's like, come on, let's go." Then Jod's like, "Perhaps young Fern here would like to accompany me to meet the supervisor and learn something about duty, responsibility." And Farah's like, "Of course, I should accompany her." He's like, "Certainly, I'll take special care of you both." So Wendell and Wim are eating like table zap food. There's like this little like heater thing or whatever on their table. And Wendell's like, "Nothing like a home cooked meal." He's like, "I bet you missed these while you're out there, huh?" And Wim just like sighs. Then he looks at the security droid standing there because he can't say anything. And so then when Wendell's like, "Of course, I'm going to have to talk to the proctor so you can take assessment." And Wim like scoffs. He's like, "That doesn't matter anymore." And he's like, "Doesn't matter? Are you?" And he like sighs. He's like, "You didn't learn your lesson from your little space joyride? You are in big trouble, mister." He's like, "No, Dad, that's not what I meant." And Wendell's like, "If you don't get assessed, how are you going to have a career?" He's like, "Dad." And Wendell's like, "How will you be part of the great work?" He's like, "There's a lot more to galaxy than the great work." And Wendell's like, "You think I didn't want to just take off and meet a Jedi?" And he's like, "He's not even a..." And then he just like zips it and he glances at the droid and then at Dad. And Wendell's like confused. And Wim's like, "I'm sorry." It's like, "I saw places out there that made me get how good home is. It's just..." He glanced at the droid. He's like, "There are certain people from out there who want to ruin it." And one is like, "Well, that's what the supervisor's for." Fern, Farah, Jod, and like some security droids ride up in the elevator. Farah says, she's like, "Meeting the supervisor at your age, it's an incredible honor. Just be sure to make a good impression. Don't slouch." And she's like, "Mom." And Jod just like looks at her and then she like glares back. Wim calls Neil on their walkie-talkie. Like, "Neil, where are you? I need help." And Neil's like, "I'm home, but I'm being watched by the droids. I can't talk or Jod will know. I gotta go." He's like, "No, Neil." He's like, "We need to save Fern. Please, help." And from the hall, the droid's like, "All communications will be reported to the emissary. Who are you speaking to?" And he like gets startled. Then he picks up like some figures and mimics. So like, "Oh, come on. We need to save Princess Fern." So he acts like he was playing. The elevator reaches the top. The doors open. Farah like clears her throat. She calls out, "Hello, hello," like several times. And John notices, like runs his hand like in the back of a chair, like thick layer of dust as they're walking. He's like, "Is it abandoned?" And she's like, "No, it's just, you see the supervisor so rarely grants an audience." And then this like big mechanical dome like spins. There's like a red light, like red blue light that shines on them, like robotic voices like, "Is that under Secretary Farah I see? one of my most dedicated citizens. I have been watching over you and your daughter with great interest, and I'm pleased to see she has been safely returned. Jad's like, yo, ruled by a droid? And Farah's like, as decreed by the great work. The droid's like, and I see a new face. Please introduce yourself. So Jad's like, greetings, Supervisor. I am Jad Nawood, emissary for the New Republic and Jedi. Then he makes the lightsaber float in his hand. And he's like, greetings. And then Fern whispers, it's a trick. And I couldn't tell if he heard her because he had glares in her direction. So then the droid's like, I must admit, I begin to doubt an emissary would ever visit our humble mint again. And he's like, indeed, our apologies. We have had our hands full. You understand, thwarting the many evil schemes to destroy the Republic. And the droid's like, the Republic, the outside galaxy is so dangerously unstable. And Jad's like, oh yes, now as emissary, I need my other ship, currently in orbit beyond the Great Barrier. And Farah's like, why doesn't your second ship simply land as you did? And he's like, you ask too many questions of your emissary. What you need to do right now is obey. And the supervisor's like, well said. Strict obedience to authority has kept At-Aten running smoothly for generations. And then Jad, your other ship may land if you can clear up one tiny detail. You see, the last message the Republic stated that all Jedi were traitors. So which are you lying about, being an emissary or a Jedi? And Fern yells, he's a pirate trying to invade the mint. And the supervisor's like, as I suspected, sees the imposter, alarms like blare, security droids approach with like stun rifles. Jad has his lightsaber on. He deflects several stun blasts and then drop the weapon or you will be stunned. Farah and Fern like duck out of the way. He turns and the supervisor asks like, what are you doing? He jabs the lightsaber into like the red, like blue, like sensor light. The supervisor like sputters, must protect. And the security droids start to power down. So Farah gasps, what have you done? And he turns, Fern, bring your mummy up to speed. And he pulls out his lightsaber. So just like that, he destroyed the supervisor and the whole ruling system of At-Aten. Outside, the power goes out like across the city. Wim's like lying in his bed, and he gets up, he looks out the window, he sees like lights turning off, and security droids just like powering down. Jad's at a computer. How do I bring my other ship through the barrier? Barrier override? He pushes a button, and a device pops up. Farah stands like, no, you can't. And he's like, kind of chuckles. He's like, no. He's like, you no longer issue orders here. And she's like, that will destroy the barrier. It's essential to our survival. I can give your ship access instead. And Fern's like, Mom. And Farah's like, Fern, I'll handle this. Jad's like, I don't want to destroy anything. I just want to land my ship. We'll take our fill of credits and we'll go. You'll never see us again. No one will get hurt. Fern's like, he's lying. He's going to stay and he's going to try. And he turns the lightsaber and like holds the tip up to Fern's face. And she kind of glares. Farah shudders and Jad like grins at her. He's like, now, how do I get my ship? And she's like, Mom, don't tell him. He like separates him with the lightsaber. He starts to hold it closer to Fern to get Farah to talk. And she's like, I'll show you. And he's like, good. And he turns it off. So he's able to radio his ship. He's like, Gunta, I've seized control of At-Aten's system and cleared the frigate to pass through the barrier. Get down here and begin the invasion. So then pirates all cheer. They head through the barrier, and then like the space mines or whatever, they turn to green. The red lights turn green and lets them pass. Wim waves his hand in front of the security droid. Nothing happens. So he yells out to Dad, and Wendell's like, don't worry, it's just a power outage. Looks like the whole block is out. And Wim's like, Dad, look. He knocks the security droid over. And he's like, what the heck are you doing? And he's like, the droids were spying on us. He's like, now I can finally tell you. Jad's a bad guy. He's lying. He didn't save us. He's trying to get us. There's like this rumbling above. And they like run outside. They see the frigate coming down. And other people are outside in the streets too. Neil is like in the bath. He sees like the frigate going through the skylight. His moms and siblings are outside. KB sees the frigate, and then she starts running. And then there's like guns on the ship, starts shooting and blowing up like vehicles in the streets. Wendell's trying to start the car. Wim says the power's out. Then he's like, well, we'll go on foot. We'll go somewhere safe. And Wim's like, we can't just run away. He's got Fern. And Wendell's like, leave that to the security droids. And Wim's like, the security safety droids are all off. And he's like, no one knows what's going on but us. We have to save her, Dad. Then KB and Neil ride up, and he's like, yes, hover bikes, they still work. Wendell's like, no hover bikes. You kids go home. It isn't safe. And Wim's like, do you think Fern's okay? KB's like, I don't know, but John must have done something to the supervisor. It's like, Neil's like, we have to call for help. And Wim's like, how? Neil's like, remember that the hotel planet? The X-Wings chased the pirates away. KB's like, and Kim, the bird lady, knows him. Neil's like, so we get to the ship, fly out past the barrier, and call her for help. Wim's like, so we blast off, call the real good guys, and beat the pirates. Okay, let's do this. He gets his own hover bike, and Wendell's like, Wim. He like runs after them. He's like running down the street. There's this like older kid sitting on a hover bike. Somehow Wendell gets a bike from him, and he rides up to the kids. And he's like, we are stopping this right now. Then they see like a small like craft like exiting the frigate. KB calls her mom's. It's like, stay hidden. The pirates are landing, but don't worry, we're getting help. Pirate transports land in the street. They like round them up. It's like, they work for us, making credits. And then like pirates bust into KB's house and get her mom's. 2 transports hover in front of the hover bikes. One pirate like shoots and like tells them to hold. They veer off and then they dodge more shots. KB says that they need cover, so they drive off the road like into the wooded area. Pirates like lose sight of them because of the trees. Neil yells out that they're headed like right for the giant cliff thing or something like that. And KB says, go full throttle. And Wendell's like, wait. He's like, I'm heavier than you. Wim's like, trust KB. So they fly over the ravine. Wim is like surprised, and Wendell's like starts whooping. And Wim says like, come on. Then the pirates see them, and so they start shooting again. So like that basically it didn't accomplish anything. KB tells them to go through like this building, so they like turn and go in there. Pirates are shooting outside. An explosion causes like Neil's bike to like throw him off, and he's like on the floor. He's like just I'm okay. He's like just keep going. On the walkie-talkie, he says that there are so many pirates that he thinks the ship's gonna need cover, and Wim radios to just be careful. So they ride past like the powered down droids and like into the ship. KB starts up the ship, and Wim's like, Dad, isn't this the best? And Wendell's like, you kids know how to fly this thing? So KB tries lifting off, but it jams. And Wim and Wendell, they go to the ramp, and they see it's stuck. Wendell says that it's docking clamps. They have to restore power to open them. Wendell starts like looking around, like all the power relays are routed through like the supervisor tower. And Wim's like, can you turn them on? And Wendell's like, son, you are talking to a level 7 systems coordinator. Get the bike. So they ride off. KB comms that she'll take off as soon as they turn off the clamp. She calls Neil and asks how's the cover coming. And he says that he found a turbo laser just like on Hana's planet. And so they had a big turbo laser. I think it was Kona, the lady pirate. She tells Jod, these cowards are giving us no trouble, Captain. Few of them who are armed, it's like we made examples of. So they actually kill people? Like, that's not cool. And Jod's like, hey, don't injure too many of them. I need them as workers. I need the mint intact. So it sometimes it feels like Jod is kind of like not that bad of a guy, because he did help the kids out from time to time, but he also straight up killed the other captain guy. But he was a pirate, so I don't know. So then off the side, Farrah's like, the barrier was supposed to protect you from this. It's like, it was supposed to keep you safe from the galaxy. And Fern's like, and now we have to do something. It's like, yeah, the galaxy is scary and dangerous. Everywhere we went, even the worst places, there were good people too. People that could help us. It's like, you have to trust me. So Farrah's like, okay, so what's the plan? Fern's like, see those droids over there? If we can get one of their blasters, we can stun Jod. And Farrah's like, Fern, he'll shoot you. Fern's like, that's why you need to create a distraction. And she's like, what? And then, pew! Jod like shoots by them. You two, stop scheming and listen. He hits the PA button. Citizens of Aten, I have taken control. If you follow my orders, my men will show you mercy. If you defy me, punishment will be severe. You all now work for me. Wendell and Wim are still riding on a hover bike. Pirates start shooting at them. They're like laughing. They go over like this canal, like under this like structured thing. There's like kind of like cover over their heads. The pirates keep firing. Jod radios the holder fire because he's like, I'm up here, you idiots. So I don't know if it's like shaking things where he's at. The pirate, he's like, sorry. It's like, it was a speeder bike headed for your position. He's like, don't worry, we got him. Then the elevator opens up somehow because I thought there's like no power. And Wim's standing there in the elevator. And so it's like, it must be like the fastest elevator in the galaxy because it took them so long to get up, whatever. So he puts his hands up when Jod turns to him, and he's like holding a walkie-talkie in his hands. He's like, I called the X-Wings. It's over. And Fern exhales. She's like, ah. And Jod's like, oh, really? And he's like, I thought the barrier jammed all communications. And Wim's like, not if you have the crystal of the founders that we discovered guarded by an ancient warrior way up in the northern mountains. And he's like, ooh, that's quite a tale. Wim's like, I'm just giving you a chance to surrender now because the whole entire Jedi army is underway. And like Wendell's like making a move while Wim like distracts him. Fern looks at him wondering like, what the heck are you doing? And Jod's like, Wim, the Jedi are all dead. And Fern leaps up. Wait, but that's just what they want you to think. Wim found the crystal a long time ago, and he's been working with the Jedi to lure you here to trap you. Farrah's like, Fern? Wim's like, if you let Fern and her mom go, I'll call them off. Jod's like, Wim? And Sophie's like, you need to work on that story. Then Wendell gets the systems power up. Jod sees him and like shoots towards him, so he kind of runs. Jod like hops over like a computer terminal, goes back after him. Farrah and Fern get up. Wim radios, KB, we got it. Jod's like, you brought your dad? Fern tries prying a stun rifle out of the droid's arm, but Jod shoots it. He's like, do not do that again. Farrah stands in front of Fern. She's like protecting her with her body. So he's like, everyone, where I can see you. Come on, now. The four of them move. So then KB gets the ship up in the air. One of her mom's radios, KB, how are you flying that thing? And she says like, oh, I have a little help. And she's holding 33's head, and he's like telling her to hold his head steady. Gunther orders them to lock cannon on the ship. Before it can fire, the cannon blows up. Neil is shooting the turbo cannon from the ground. Unfortunately, he only gets in a few shots because the frigate then targets the blaster and shoots it. He like got up and like ran just before it blew up. So Gunther radios Jod saying that they have a problem up there. The old ship, it took off and it got away. So Jod's like, children, you think you can send your ship out for help? You don't know what you've done. So KB flies through the barrier. The rat crawls like on top of her head. It's just like sitting at the top of her head. He's like, once she reaches the other side, she calls out Kim, and she's like, pirates are attacking our planet. You said to call if we needed any help. And Kim's like, help? She's like, you found your way back to at. And she's like, yes, I'm sending you coordinates. Can you send your friends in the X-Wing fighters? And she's like, X-Wings? I'll contact the New Republic. They are the greatest pirate busters in the galaxy. It's like, I got a hyperspace route straight to you. They'll be there in 2 flaps. And KB's like, good, but listen, they're going to have to find some way to get through the barrier that's hiding our, And then the ship gets like hit a couple times. 33 is like, we've been hit. I'm going to take evasive maneuvers. KB calls Wim. She says she got the message through, but she got hit. So she's going down. Then Jod's like, look at what you've done. Go look. So they go to the window. They see the ship coming down. KB tells her mom that she's fixing it, but it's coming down fast. John like shakes his head. He's like, she'll never make it. And then Fern whispers, KB, he's like, you've got this. It goes down, down, down. And then it's like, wait, did it crash? There's no explosion. But Fern screams, no! And then she's like sobbing. So KB's dead. Wim, Farrah, and Wendell are shocked. Jod actually seems kind of upset too. And I'm not sure, I wasn't sure, is he upset over his plan falling apart or that KB's dead? And he's like, it didn't need to be like this. And he bangs the table. He's like, doesn't matter who you call. They can't get through the barrier. And Fern with tears, but she's like also like anger. Like she looks at the controls and she tells Wim a switch can destroy the barrier. So she moves towards it, but Farrah grabs her saying that they can't. Jod starts to raise his gun, but then pauses, and Fern slips out of Farrah's arms, and he shoots just like past her. They both like duck down, so Wendell gets mad. He's like, hey. But Jod force shoves him against the computer terminals. Then Jod turns on a lightsaber. Wim debates, like he's like about to move towards the switch. He's like, Wim, don't you touch that. So he has his back to Wim, but he's holding a lightsaber at Wendell's face. And so Jad turns, he's like, you hear me? He's like, I'll kill him. And then to Wendell, tell your son to step away. And Wim's like, you're no Jedi. Sniffle. It's like, you lied, and now the real good guys are coming. And sarcastically, the good guys? It's like, no one is coming to save you, boy. Grow up. That's not. And then he's like, when I was your age, all I cared about was not starving. I was living in a hole in the ground, and a Jedi found me. She may have been desperate and ragged like me, but she told me I had potential. And that, well, she only taught me a little before they hunted her down, and they made me watch whilst they killed her. That's the galaxy. It's dark, with a few pinpricks of light. I'll kill who I need to kill. Now, let go. Farah's like, just do as he says. So Wim lets go. Jad turns off the lightsaber. Wim goes to his dad and hugs him. Or maybe, was it Wendell that said let go? Anyways, Wim goes to him and like hugs him. And Jad's like, I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to damage this beautiful planet. I want you all to go back to work, making credits. What is it you call it? The great work? You can carry on exactly as you were before, crafting the one thing that means something in this galaxy. Cold, hard credits. So Wendell's like clenching his fist. Jad's like looking the other way. He gets up, he like punches Jad, and then the lightsaber goes flying out of his hand. Wendell like reaches for the switch, but then Jad grabs him from behind, like by the waist. Fern yells at Wim to grab the lightsaber. She moves towards the lever, but then Jad force shoves her back. He reaches out for the lightsaber. It's now in Wim's hands, and he's struggling because he's holding it with both hands. And his feet are like sliding across the floor. Fern goes to Wim's side and like to help him like hold the lightsaber. Wendell's still like reaching for the lever. Then Jad switches his focus to Wendell's hand on the lever. Wim and Fern fall back because like now like no one's struggling or no one's pulling it from them. Fern calls out, "Mom, please!" And Wendell's hand is on the lever. Farah reaches and pulls it down. And then it like starts getting brighter. Jad's not happy. Wim turns on the lightsaber and he glares. He like drops the blaster. Then the green barrier starts to like pull back. People can actually see stars outside. There's like whooshing sounds. X-Wings and other New Republic ships have arrived. They start like shooting the frigate. Neil yells out, "Yes!" Pirates get on their transports, try to figure out where to go. Wim, Fern, Wendell, and Farah get into the elevator. Wim calls out to Jad, but Jad just stares at them. And so I guess he's just going to stay up there. Fern puts her arm on his shoulder and the doors close. Jad walks to the window, watches the frigate go down in flames, and it cars up some of the street and like lands in the water. Outside, they run to find KB. They find Neil, so their ship is like hanging in the rafters. The hatch opens and credits pour out, and KB slides out too. So they're like, KB. She's alive. She's not dead. She groans and she's like, "Did we win?" And they're like, "Yes." And they all hug. And then 33 is like, "Yep, one of my better landings, that is." So he's like walking, he's carrying his head under his arm. Farah yells at them to get out from under the ship since it's like creaking and moving like it's going to fall on them. Neil finds the rat, picks it up. Fern's like, "Hey, Wim, looks like you don't have to take assessments anymore." So he looks back at the ship, sees X-Wings flying overhead. The Rebel blockade runner is like, flying there. And then he looks at the stars, and that's the end. So they won, but it's like Jad is still there. Jad's still alive. He's up in the supervisor room, and it's like, who are they going to send after? I mean, I guess they could send some X-Wing people, but he does have force abilities. I don't know what he has for weapons up there, but he's still alive, so we could potentially see everyone. So, like I said, it was good. It was fun. So I enjoyed that. It's like something a little different, and I think that's exactly what we need. So it's not always the same thing. Okay, then with Silo Season 2, Episode 10, season finale. I can't believe the season's over. I mean, it 10 weeks. It just feels like it's so fast. And I've been kind of slowing down on the book again because I don't want to get too far, but I still have a little bit ways left in the book. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm just. I don't know. Maybe the book might end with this season. I have to see because there's just some things that are different. Anyways, we're not here for the book. It starts off. Juliet's dad's like looks at her watch because he's wearing Juliet's watch, and he's like, alive? And Shirley's like, we don't know if it's true, not 100%, but an up-topper claiming to be Bernard's shadow snuck down, and he told me that when Jules was last seen, she was still alive. And he's like, where? Outside? And Shirley's like, I don't know. And Knox like, but it gives us hope, not that you ever lost it. And so Doc Nichols, he's like, a lot of people come through those doors saying, my Juliet is alive. They chant it on the stairs, carve it in the walls. But you're the first people I actually believe. He gets up and he's like, we're out of gloves. I tell you that? He's like, we're understaffed. I haven't slept. And Knox like, Dr. Nichols, we need you for something urgent. And he's like, I'm providing medical services to every soul below the barricade during a time of rebellion. What could possibly be more pressing? And Knox like, war. So Juliet, Silo, who is now Jimmy, so we're going to call him Jimmy, and Eater, so we're calling her Eater for now. They go into like the old apartment. Juliet grabs something and she's like, okay, I got it. But Jimmy kind of like lingers, looks around, and he's like, this is my old lunchbox. And Juliet's like, Jimmy? He's like, what? She's like, you okay? He's like, yeah, I just haven't been here in a long time. The last time I was here was the last time I saw my mom. I remember they were standing there. There's sort of like a flashback because he's standing there. He sees his parents talking. And he's like, they were younger than me. I mean, than I am now. And he's like, I got so old. It's like, it's been so long. My mom, she wanted me to sit in my chair and eat my lunch like it was just a normal day. And Eater is like, were you an only child? No sisters or brothers? He's like, no. And she's like, were there any more suits? It's like, if you had one when you were a kid, maybe it could fit me. He's like, no, I never saw a suit for me, but my dad had one, and then my mom had one made, but I don't see it anywhere. So Juliet's like, Jimmy, we gotta go. And he's like, is it okay if I just spend a little time in here? Just a little bit? So Juliet nods. And she's like, but I'm leaving soon. He's like, I know. So Eater follows Juliet out. Jimmy like looks around some more, picks up a scrap of paper, and it's like safeguard procedure. And he like thinks about that. Out in the hall, Eater asks like, how far does she have to walk? And Juliet's like, oh, it's not too far, but, and then, hey, and it's Jimmy. Juliet's like, what? He's like, there's something you have to see. And Juliet's like, no, I have to get going. He's like, oh no, that's why you have to see it. What I have to show you. It might be the only way to save your silo. Come on. Lucas is climbing this like long ladder built into the wall. He's cursing because he almost slips. And then at the regular mechanical level, the one dude by the barricade before, he's like, hey, it's Mr. Blue ID guy. Can I see it? So here's the thing. I just realized, I didn't realize it last episode, but this episode I'm like, it looks familiar. It was Greg friggin' Hemphill. Greg Hemphill, he is the bartender in Deadpool and Wolverine. But more importantly, he's in Still Game. Have I mentioned Still Games? I haven't mentioned Still Games in a while. If you have not watched Still Games, it is a Scottish comedy show, and I'm so total tangent on Silo. Go to Netflix, it's on there, or YouTube. Still Game. It is hilarious. So he's a bartender. So I was like, it was like so awesome to see him. I love Greg. So he asked for the ID. He's like, Lucas, right? He's like, you're coming with me. And Luke's like, no, I need to get up top. And he's like, Shirley told me to find someone named Lucas and lock him up. And Luke's like, look, you have no idea. He's like, probably not, but I don't care. It's like, you want to walk or be dragged? And he's like, dragged it is. But then Lucas somehow like he didn't sucker punch him. He actually like kicked him in the crotch. So he goes down. He's like, sorry. Knox goes to Walker's. Shirley and Billings are there, and he hands Shirley like this like big rolled up thing, like plans or something like that. So Walk's like, what am I looking at? And he's like, something we've been hoping to avoid for some time now. And she's like, what? What do you mean we? I never saw this. And Shirley like, nobody has. And Hank's like, there's gunpowder rolling down the hallway, so somebody has. Knox like, they only know what they need to, not all of it. The people in this room are the people we trust. And Billings like, what's the plan? And he's like, it's a bit of a risk. And Shirley's like, the odds are not in our favor. And Walk's like, that's not a good place to start. Shirley's like, but in our present situation, the chances of long-term survival, they're not much better. So Knox like, resources are running out. It's only a matter of time before they take back the farm. So it's kind of now or never. It's like, I wouldn't have said this when we started, but now we need to know that we are willing to risk everything. Billings like, and by everything you mean, Shirley like, the only thing we have left for leverage. And Knox like, in 1 hour, I'm going to lead a team that will storm the barricade. Shirley will follow with a second wave, but our goal isn't so much to win at the barricade, but to hold off the raiders for at least 3 hours. And Walk's like, why 3? And he's like, because that's how long it takes to rig the generator to explode. She's like, you're going to blow up the generator? And he's like, if we don't get what we want. And Billings like, if you don't get what you want, you're going to kill everybody? Shirley's like, we're not going to kill everybody. And Knox is like, what do you want, Sheriff? He's like, I want to know the truth. And Knox is like, they won't give it to us. Not unless they have to. 3 hours. That's all we need. But the timeline stays in this room. Because if someone from up top finds out, this will all be for nothing. So Walk doesn't say a word. And Bernard's obviously watching. Billings like, I'll go with the first wave. And Bernard says to himself, he's like, gotcha. Walking out of the janitorial closet, Bernard says that Ardmanson is like, send your raiders to storm the barricades, arrest the rebels, and secure the generator room now. And Ardmanson's like, how many should I send? He's like, all of them. Barrels are like being hammered shut, and like chained. A couple guys like standing at the barricades. Raiders are on the other side. They start running up the stairs, and the two like from the downside, they're like, wait, what's going on? This barrel goes flying over the rails, hits the barricade just like a wrecking ball, knocks over. One guy gets like knocked down, got hit or something like that. Raiders, the ones that left, they start running down the stairs. Lucas gets grabbed and hit with like a billy club or something like that. At the other silo, Jimmy takes them back to the apartment. He says it's there somewhere, how to save them. It's just, he's like, wait, you can't hear this. You got to go. He's like, the eater's got to go. And she's like, don't call me the eater. He's like, you're too young to hear this. And she's like, don't call me that. Juliet's like, it's okay. It's okay. What do you want to be called? And Eater's like, my mom called me Hope. And Juliet's like, Hope? Okay, that's great. That's a great name, Hope. Hey, if you go back to the vault, we'll be right back. I promise, okay? So she leaves, and Jimmy's like, sorry. And he's like, okay, look, it's written here, the safeguard procedure. I heard my parents whispering about it. It could kill people, but that morning they figured out a way to stop it. If you learn it, then maybe you can keep your silo from dying. I remember my mom not coming back, and then whatever my parents did worked. And Julia's like, what? My mom and dad saved people's lives. All those people that went outside, they didn't die, not at first. They didn't die, Juliet. And Juliet's like, and you think that whatever they did could help save my silo? Yes. And she's like, okay. It's here somewhere. I don't know what I'm looking for. And Juliet's like, well, if we're going to do this, you have to remember, okay? So I just love the way, like, Juliet is kind of like the peacekeeper. She's, like, calm, and, she's, like, trying to, explain things to them. And, I mean, it's just the name thing. And she's like, okay, if you don't like that name, what do you want to be called? It's that easy. So Shirley yells to the group, they're coming. So they're like standing with like shovels and just like weapons or whatever. Raiders come down the hall. Knox asks Shirley, he's like, you with me? And she's like, always. And they charge towards him. Billings goes to his apartment. Kathleen and the baby are there. He tries like blocking the door. He says that they're coming. And the door gets knocked down. The one lady cop's like, Paul Billings, you're under arrest for violation of Pact Order 1124 Delta dereliction of duty with seditious intent. He's like, wait, there's a child over there. So they grab him forcibly. And she's like, it's not personal, Paul. Just doing my job, like you taught me. So other raiders grab Kathleen and the baby. Patrick Kennedy yells as he's like pinned to the ground. He says, it's a really inconvenient time. It's like, maybe it'd be better when your mom was here. And the Raiders like hits him in the head with like something, and he gets like banged up. He's got like a welt under. Whatever. He gets dragged away, like he's cuffed or chained, and a bunch of other people are like chained up. Shirley, Knox, and others, they're like locked up, or like in these cells or whatever. Then in the control room, Bernard tells the monitor dude to restore radio communications. So he takes out the 18 silo key and he looks up, and the dude's like, "Are you all right?" And he's like, "Yes, I am." So he's relieved that the keychain isn't blinking. And then he's like, "Any luck finding Lucas Kyle?" And the dude's like, "Not yet." Sims stands on a landing next to Camille. He's like, "Did we choose the wrong side?" And she's like, "By delivering Billings' message? Maybe." And Sim's like, "If Bernard finds out, sending us out to clean with our son watching will be the most generous punishment he'll offer." And she's like, "Maybe the message will still pay off. Either way, it's time. You find a way into the vault, and I'll get our boy." So Jimmy says, I remember the vault. I remember my mom and dad and Solo. He's the one who put me there." And she's like, "Right." He's like, "Then a couple days later, I remember explosions, and I remember gunshots, and I remember the sheriff bringing my dad back, but my mom wasn't there. Then my dad told them that it was safe to go outside. He told them that they had done something to make it safe, but the sheriff, he wanted the truth, and so my dad told him the truth. It's a pipe. The safeguard is a pipe." And she's like, "What?" He's like, we have to find it." So the rebels are brought to the cafeteria, and they're like, "You're here for your safety and the safety of the silo. Your peace will be met with kindness. Your violence will be met with..." And someone's like, "Shut the fudge up." And there's like scuffles going on. Shirley like walks around. She hugs this like one kid. I forgot his name. And then she keeps going. She sees Lucas. And then she's like, "You kicked Randy in the nuts?" He's like, "Yeah, well, I needed to get up top." And she's like, "Why?" He's like, "You're not going to tell me what you found down there?" And he's like, "Don't worry, because it doesn't matter now." And she's like, "Tell me." He's like, "It doesn't matter." Billings talks to Kathleen and the baby. She asks, what are they going to do with them? And Billings is grabbed again and dragged away. Shirley, Walk, Knox, and a couple others, they are taken through, like, opening of the gate. The gate's shut. Patrick is, he's in the other area. So, again, this big gate shuts, locks him in the cafeteria. Then he yells, he's like, "Nichols showed me. She was trying to show everyone the truth." And on the other side, I guess, to separate him, the office manager, she's like, "I saw it too." She's like, a flash of blue and then green. And when they shut down the power to fix the generator, it's like, "I saw it." And Patrick's like, "It's safe outside. Juliet Nichols is alive. Juliet lives." So they all think it's safe. They want to go outside, and it's not safe. The others are taken into actual cells. Shirley gets put in with McLean, but then Walk is happy to see her. A Raider's like, "Mayor Holland specifically said they should be in separate cells." Ardmanson comes to Walk. He's like, "No, the silo is grateful for your cooperation." And Knox is like, "You Walk?" And she's like, "It was the only way." So see, I thought Knox knew, but maybe he didn't, or maybe he did. McLean stares at her. Ardmanson, it's like, "You two are free to go." So Walk reaches out to McLean, and she's like, "Get the fudge away from me. I'm not going anywhere with you." And then Walk says to Ardmanson, "Well, I have to see him." And Ardmanson's like, "For you, I'm sure he'll make time." McLean's like, "I hope he sends you out to clean." Walk leaves, and McLean just sits in the cell. Dr. Nichols tries like walking, and a radar stops him. He's like, if I don't get Dr. Nichols, he's like, because there's some people carrying like a body on a stretcher or something. He's like, "If I don't get your colleague to a functioning medical level soon, he's going to die on the stairs." And the guy's like, "Look, Doc, I have my orders." And this lady Raider, Jean, she's like, "It's okay, I got it." And the guy's like, "Jean, if they gave me strict orders not to let anyone out of here until they gave word," and then the radio interrupts, "We found gunpowder, a lot of it." He's like, "Fudge." He's like, "Just go." And then on the radio, he's like, "Where?" They're like, "Mechanical, it's everywhere." Juliet and Jimmy are frantically searching the papers. He's like, they had to block it. They had to put a cap on it, but they were afraid that something would go wrong. And Juliet's like, "Why? Why did they have to cap it?" "Because it had poison in it, enough poison to kill everybody, all 10,000 people." Juliet's like, we have to find a map of the silo. The pipe came from outside. He's like, wait, here, that's where my mom worked. Do you think we should go? And she's like, fudge, yes. Raiders are outside mechanical, like getting ready, looking around. Rick, Audrey, the kid, Benny, and the baby, I think Benny was the older kid, and the baby are still in the vault. They're like looking at stuff. There's just like this pop-up book. Rick's looking at this record. It's like the sounds of nature. Just like kind of like a mountainside picture with like some birds flying. It's just kind of like we've seen that a lot, the images of the painting and the outside, the video. Hope comes in. Audrey just kind of glares at her, and then she goes like into the other room. Hope does. Walk is brought, meanwhile, to Bernard's office. He's like, I understand that your ex-wife didn't want to have anything to do with you. Well, at least you're free, unlike the rest of them. Drink? She's like, no, thanks. It's like, we have a couple more minutes here before we get confirmation that the generator is safe. Have a seat. Dr. Nichols goes upstairs, followed by the Raider and like two people carrying like someone on a stretcher. Nichols like, we need to stop. He's like, you two keep going. Let me know if anyone's coming down. And so this Jean, she was in on it too. And Nichols looks at his watch. In the office, Walk looks at the clock on the wall, and Bernard notices, tells her, like, relax. He's like, they'll come and tell me when it's done. So he's like, so what did you want to see me about? She's like, I wanted to tell you a story about the generator. And he's like, does every conversation about mechanical begin and end with the generator? It's like, that's not where the story ends. So Billings and the other sit in cells. The lady cop tells this other dude to go see if the rebels in the cafeteria have settled down and see if there's any food. So he asks, he's like, are you sure you're okay here? And she's like, these a-holes aren't going anywhere. Gene signals Dr. Nichols. He tells the patient that they're clear above. Is he ready? The patient is Hank. So he sits up. He takes off like this breathing mask and like that. He's like, I was dying of that thing. He says that he'll make sure no one's coming from below. Nichols like looks at something on the gurney, and Hank comes back, and Nichols like, it's gone, the timer. And Hank's like, how? He's like, I don't know, but it's gone. By the generator, Raiders are following, tracing the wires where they're going. This Raider tells another to radio it's okay because they didn't wire the bombs. So now it's just like, oh man. So she says that they have to be careful, no gunfire, no sparks, because there's like gunpowder everywhere. So Walk's like, the generator, to Bernard, she's like, the generator is loud. So in order to communicate, you have to yell. Over the years, crews have developed a system of hand signals, mostly done with one hand, and they got pretty elaborate. You can have a whole conversation, and I taught that to the kids. So in my workshop, when you thought that everything you saw on that camera was all that was being communicated, we were actually having a whole different conversation. And she signals like knocks when they're like being watched. So Bernard's expression starts to change, and Walk just like smirks. So cells are open. The lady cop says to Billings, like, we got your message. And she hands him a gun. The others are all let out too. Nichols takes off Juliet's watch. He hands it to Hank. And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, if she's alive, you give her this. Tell her I love her. And tell her to never stop fighting. He's like, never stop being herself. Because her whole life, she's been perfect. It's just the way she is. And Hank's like, Doc, let me do it. He's like, absolutely not. He's like, go. He's like, I can't. He's like, go. And he gets up. So you probably can figure out what's going to happen. It's like, okay, Hank or Dr. Nichols. It's like, he's a doctor. He delivers babies. He's helping people. Hank is kind of a schlup. I mean, he's definitely leveled up, but so Walk to Bernard, she's like, my mistake was in putting my own personal desires above those of mechanical, my family. But that's a mistake that I hope to rectify in 5, 4, 3. Bernard like whips around, looks at the clock, and then back a Walk. 2, 1. And then click, Adamson walks in. He's like, bomb's been neutralized. We've got in before they can connect it. And Bernard's like, fudge. He's like, wow, that was dramatic. He's like, what was that? That at the end of that little countdown, were we supposed to lose power? He's like, what was supposed to happen? He's like, last some more. And Walker's just like, ugh. So Nichols opens this thing. He holds out like 2 wires in his hands, and he looks at Hank, like peering at him over the railing, closes his eyes. Hank runs and dives, like off by the railing on the side, and then boosh, smoke, rubble, and the power like kind of flickers. At the other silo, Juliet and Jimmy, they hear like a muffled boom, and she's like, "You hear that?" And Jimmy's like, "Something's outside," and she's like, "It felt like it came from," and he's like, "Yeah, you're out of time," and she's like, "What?" He's like, "You need to get home now." Bernard says, "What did you do?" And she's like, "Not just me, all of us." And she dumps deputy badges out on the floor. He like runs out. Adamson's like confused. Gene points a gun at Sims and others, tells them to put their weapons down, and then they open up the cafeteria jail. So they all have like pipes and stuff as weapons. Bernard is talking on the radio. He's like, "What do you mean gone?" And someone's like, "The stairs between 92 and 90, they're just gone." So Bernard and Adamson are shocked. Bernard's like, "How many raiders were trapped below the explosion point?" And Adamson's like, "You told me to send them all." So there's lots of commotion on the stairs. Billings looks around. He sees Kathleen and the baby. Bernard is like, "Get whoever you can, protect it." And Adamson's like, "Everyone above the explosion is either defending their position or abandoning posts." He's like, "Maybe I can gather some raiders, maybe Sims." And Luke's like, "Go, go." So Lucas comes up to him, and he's like, "Bernard." And Bernard's like, "Where have you been?" And he's like, "Just shut up and listen." He's like, "What?" He's like, "There's no time, okay?" He's like, "I need you to look like we're having a serious conversation, but just listen." He's like, "Don't say a word, because if it hears this, we're dead." So they like slowly separate, and Lucas goes somewhere. And then, he looks around, and it's like Sims is looking down at them. And then he goes back to Lucas. He's like, "It's true. It's why Meadows quit you as your shadow. It's why I quit." And Sims is still like watching from above. And then he pulls out the key thing. It's like still not flashing. So he starts walking, and Artemis is like, "Boss?" And Bernard looks around. He looks up. He starts walking the stairs slowly. Sims meets him like on the stairs. He's like, "Bernard." He's like, "Hey, Bernard." He's like, "What did Lucas Kyle tell you?" And he's like, "Hello, Rob." But he keeps walking. He's like, "What did he say?" And Bernard stops. He's like, "Hey, you still want to be my shadow?" And Sims is like, "What?" He's like, "You got it." He's like, You're now my shadow." And he hands him like the key thing. He's like, "The code is 552039. Good luck, Robert. You were very loyal until you weren't." So Lucas just quit, and Bernard makes Sims his shadow now. Juliet and Jimmy come into like the vault, and she asks if he can get the tape, and he says, "Oh yeah, it's in a desk drawer." And she's like, "I'm gonna need help to seal this suit once it's on." And then she takes it out, and there's like holes in it, and she's like, "No, fudge." So I don't remember how I don't know what happened here. And Hope says that, maybe they can fix it. And Audrey's like, "How are you going to fix it?" She's like, "You're probably the reason it got ruined anyways." And then she's like, "How could I be the reason? I wasn't." And Audrey's like, "Because you're the eater." And Julie's like, "Just shut up. Stop." It's like, but Audrey's like, "She's the reason our parents are dead." And she's like, "No, she's not. No, she's not." And Audrey's like, "Yes, she is." And she's like, "No, she's not. She didn't ask for this. None of us did." It's like, "You want to be angry? Be angry at the mother truckers who built this place and put us in it. Not us, not her. All we're trying to do is survive. But the only way we can do that is by trusting the other people stuck in the same poop as we are." And she's like, "But you're not stuck with us, though. You're leaving." And she's like, "You're damn right I'm leaving. I'm going home, because somewhere not too far from here, the people I love, they might be killing each other right now. And those are the people that I'm stuck with. My friends, my family, my dad." It's like, "Look at what you have. You got Rick and Benny and Tess, and you have Hope, not Eater or whatever a-hole name you want to give her." He's like, "You want to be angry? Be angry, but be angry with each other, not at each other." And she just kind of shrugs, like, "This is it. This is all that's left. You're just going to make it work. But you have to make it work right. Fudging now, right." And she's like, "I have another suit, but I don't even know if it's going to work." She's like, "But I'm going to have to try." It's like, "Jimmy, where's Jimmy?" And she's like, "No." So Jimmy's gone. She goes into the other room where the suit was, it's gone. And Rick's like, when you got mad, Jimmy, he just left. So Bernard enters his apartment. He takes something out of a closet. Lucas goes to his mom, and she's like, you're back. He's like, I am. And she's like, are you okay? She's like, what's going on out there? He's like, oh, a whole lot of nonsense. He's like, it's okay, it's fine. And she asks if he did what he needed to. He's like, turns out it didn't need doing. Shirley knocks on the other sea walk. Shirley asks, where's Bernard? Walk says that he left after explosion. Almost everyone did. It's like, IT is ours. McLean comes up to her and says she knew it. And she's like, the hell you did. So they start to hear like more commotion. Shirley asks what's going on. And Knox says that they're going to try to go out. So Juliet calls out to Jimmy. She goes down the stairs and sees him coming out from the water. So she helps him like take the helmet off and asks like, what's he doing? He's like, the helmet is airtight, and I used a good tape around my wrist and figured if the water didn't come in and I didn't drown, then it would be okay, and it worked. So you can use this one to go back. And she nods, and she moves to give him a hug, but he like jerks back. And she's like, I just wanted to thank you. And he says that, he's like, okay. He's like, you better get going. And it's so sad because he doesn't, when was the last time he ever had a hug? Bernard is like walking, he has a bag over his shoulder. People are looking at him. He goes like past the cafeteria. Lucas talks to his mom about his earliest memories. He said he was like under 2, lying in bed next to her, playing with her hands. He's like, they were so big. And she's like, what made you think of that? He's like, I don't know. And then Sims walks in. Sorry to barge in like this, Mrs. Kyle, but I need to ask your son something. And he pulls out a gun. And it's like, this is why I can't stand Sims. He's so annoying. He's like, what the fudge did you say to Bernard? It's like, why is it your business? Why do you have to know like a little baby? Bernard is still walking somewhere. And he's like in this common area. People start asking, what's happening? He's like, what do we do? He's like, we deserve to know. And he's like, tell us the truth. And he pulls out a pistol, shoots it. And there's like screams and stuff like that. And he quietly is like, get the fudge out. And he lowers it and points at them. Then one guy, deputy, he's like, not you. I think he was like a deputy. At the other silo, like they're going to start getting Juliet suited up. Then she starts leaving the cafeteria with Jimmy, and Hope asks her, hold on. She's like, you are coming back, right? And Juliet's like, no, to be honest, I don't know what's going to happen when I walk outside. So I'm not going to lie to you, okay? She's like, look, what happened to the parents is not your fault. You know that, right? You're strong and you're smart and you're capable. Yeah? You're going to be okay. You all will. So you should go. You shouldn't be here when we open the door. And at first I was like, wait, is Jimmy going? Because he said, whatever, but he's not. Lucas asks Sims, like, are you a shadow now? He's like, I am. He gave you the key? He did. And Kyle's mom was like, Lucas' mom was like, is there any way you could put that gun away? He's like, there is not. It's like, okay, so cool, Robert. Lucas is like, it's okay. See, the thing about that key, Bernard made the mistake of assuming that everything is okay because it's not lighting up. But he was wrong. It's not lighting up because it's over. What's over? The rebellion? Lucas is like, no. Then what? What did you say? And Lucas is like, I can't tell you. I won't tell you. But yes, you can kill me and my mother. Doesn't matter. It's like, you should go. Go to the vault. See the legacy while there's still time. So you'll know when you see it. The code is 55. I know what the fudging code is. And he turns and walks out. So Jimmy's helping Juliet suit up. And he's like, I know what you said, but you're going to come back, right? And she's like, nothing's going to stop me from trying. And he's just like, okay. And then he gives her like an awkward hug. At the other silo, the crowd is like restless. Patrick yells. He yells back. He's like, don't let him through. He's like, so I think they're like blocking the cafeteria. Then Knox and the others try like pushing their way through. Knox yells at Billings to go. Patrick sees him, goes after him. People are knocking at Bernard's door, his office door. He's just sitting inside. Then Billings goes up. He tells Bernard, he's like, I don't know what you're thinking, but they need you to tell the people the truth. And Patrick makes his way to the door. He tells Billing to get out of the way. And Billings like, please, 1 minute, let me talk to him. Let's hear him out. Like, Bernard, please. Then some guys like pull Billings away. And he keeps yelling. He's like, hear him out. Let's hear what he has to say. And Patrick yells. He's like, bring the ram. Then Knox, Shirley, and others like stop. They're like all like, rustling and whatever. It gets quiet. And on a big cafeteria screen, they can see someone at the hilltop. So it's Juliet. And someone's like, is that? And then Juliet starts like running down the hill. Walk McLean like stare. Patrick staring. Knock whispers like, it's her. And she goes up to the camera and she cleans it. People cheer. Walks like almost in tears. And she's like, she lives. And Knox like hugs Shirley. And then Bernard can hear like people like she's saying, Juliet lives. So he gets up, goes out like in the hall, gun still in his hand. There's a screen like on at the end of the hall. And Juliet holds up a cloth with a message, not safe, do not come out. And then she looks in the camera and, so you can see her face. And then she holds it up again. And then she like moves away towards the hatch. Sims is like running upstairs. I don't know if he actually saw this or not. Juliet uses a crowbar that she brought with her. She's trying to like open up the hatch, and she's trying. She like curses, like throws a crowbar down. But then the hatch starts to open, so she starts going down the stairs. Sims goes to the vault. Computer says, "Please state your name." He's like, "My name is Robert Sims, husband to Camille, father of Anthony. Why are you here?" "I want to save the silo." "So do I, Judge Sims. You and your son must leave the vault. Camille can stay." Because they're like standing behind him. So it's like, what is this about? Sims isn't good enough to be in the vault. So him and his son have to leave, but Camille, and she just stands there. The vault, whoever's behind us deems her worthy. Juliet continues down. The door at the bottom opens, and then friggin' Bernard comes out. He's wearing a suit. He's holding a gun. And she puts her hands up. And she's like, "Hey." She's like, "You're going to shoot me?" He's like, "Why are you here?" And she's like, "I'm here to keep everyone from going out." He's like, "You're the reason everyone wants to go out." And then she's like, "If you wanted to shoot me, I'd be dead. Why are you here, Bernard?" He's like, "I just want to go out, feel free for one fudging moment of my life." And she's like, "So why the gun?" He's like, "For the end. If the pain is too much, there's no point in what you're trying to do. Save them. It's out of your hands. It was never in your hands, in my hands, anyone's hands." And she's like, "Because of the poison they can pump in?" He's like, "You know about that?" She's like, "I know about that, but I don't know who do it, and I don't know why." He's like, "I know who, but I don't know why, and I don't fudging care. After all I've done, sacrificed to find out it never really mattered, they call it." And then they both say safeguard procedure. She's like, "I know." And he's like, "An innocuous little term that means they can kill us anytime they want." And she's like, "No, maybe not." He's like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Look." And she's moving closer to him and like a gun, and she like starts pushing it down. She's like, "I think I figured something out." And then she like moves to the inner chamber, and he's like, "You can't go in there." He's like, "You'll burn to death." He tries grabbing her, but then the door closes, so they're in there, and then on the wall, the flames things start up, and then whoosh, it's almost like an explosion, and she like dives down, but it's like that it's not a big area, and there's like nowhere to go. I think Bernard and Juliet just got toasted. And so it's like, is that the end? But then you see kind of like a city street, and there's like a rain puddle, like it's raining. Someone like crossing the street. It's like, it doesn't rain. It was like, wait, what? So this dude crossed the street, and then the camera kind of pans out. You see, you're in Washington, D.C. This dude goes up the building, and then he has to get scanned. And he's like, the guy's like, "Do you ever get a red?" And then the guy's like, "No." So and it's like, looks like they're scanning for radiation. So he's allowed, it's like a bar. He goes up to this woman at a table. It's actually Jessica Henwick. And he's like, "Helen?" And she's like, "Are we going to do the thing where we pretend we don't know what each other looks like?" He's like, "I guess not." So he sits. And she's like, "Okay, let's get it out of the way. Where were you when it happened?" He's like, "I was in session." And she's like, "Session that day, right?" He's like, "I was indeed, yes. Serving the good people of Georgia's 15th. And you? Where were you?" She's like, "I've at work." And he's like, "Am I supposed to finish that sentence?" He's like, "I'm not sure. Is that bad? It's a reporting place. It's a magazine. It's the Post. Are you still at the Post?" And she's like, "Did you really not Google me?" And he's like, "Is that so bad?" And she's like, "Wow, okay." She's She's like, well, I know that you are a freshman congressman. He's like, okay, well, my age and flag pin give that away. And she's like, representing, like you said, the 15th District of Georgia. And because you can't run anyone these days unless they've served, after you got a master's in engineering at the University of Georgia, you joined the Army. And she's like, well, kind of. And he's like, kind of? And she's like, the Army Corps of Engineers isn't exactly humping an M16 through the sandbox. He's like, well, I better change the subject before I start bragging about what we did in New Orleans. And she's like, oh, look at you working that into conversation so smoothly. He's like, do you know anyone who was affected? And she's like, by the dirty bomb? He's like, yeah. And she's like, no, you? And he's like, no, my uncle Tyler's been ranting about Iran for years, so he took it personally. But my sister's the only one who lives in D.C. She was away at the time. And then Helen's like, actually, the dirty bomb is what I wanted to talk to you about. And he's like, starting to feel like I'm the only one who thought this was a date. And she's like, a date? He's like, I know no one uses that term anymore. And she's like, if they're 95, he's like, probably wouldn't have worked out anyways. Me being a bulldog, you being a duck. And he's like, did I get that right? University of Oregon? And she's like, I thought you didn't look me up. And he's like, let the record show I actually dodged a question. So then she's like, how about I just cut to it? I'm here because I think that the people you work for, and by that I mean the citizens of this country, not the shadowy creep who pay for the campaigns. I think the people need to know if there are plans to strike back against Iran, whether or not there really was a radiological weapon attack on the United States. And she's like, how about you? What do you think? And he's just like, I think I better go. So he gets up, he puts on his coat, and then he puts on a paper bag. He's like, here. And she's like, is this a gift? Or he's like, it's how I was brought up. And she's like, something from your home state? It's not a peach. He's like, nah, it's just something I panic bought at the convenience store around the corner from my apartment. He's like, you take care. So then he leaves. So she asks the server for a check. She looks in the bag. It's a rubber duck Pez dispenser. What the heck is going on? So at first, when this has happened, I guess I have this thing, I want to believe that everything happening in silos, like happening like right now, or right around this time, but everyone in there thinks that they've been in the silo forever. So like, maybe this started 30 years, I guess it'd have to be 100 years ago. So maybe it's not that far from now. But because of the Pez dispenser, this has taken place way before the silos were built or are currently being built or something's. So I guess we're going to find out why the silos were built and that. And if she has a Pez dispenser, does she end up going in a silo? But it's just so weird. It's like, what? So that's the end of the season. It's like, oh man. So we have no idea now. And we don't know if Juliet and Bernard survived. So I mean, obviously I wouldn't think that they would just kill them like that. But then again, you never know. So man, such a good season. Okay, Harley Quinn, Season 5, Episode 1, The Big Apricot. This episode wasn't that bad. My thing with the show is I feel like Kelly Kuko sometimes just yells too much, that Harley is just always yelling, and I don't feel like she needs to be that intense. And maybe that's just the version of Harley that she's portraying, because you look at other versions, she's not that loud. There's kind of chaos in the streets. Harley and Ivy are, you walk out of a bagel shop, they're in sweats, nothing's going on. Harley says, Gotham really went to hell after the Bat family disbanded and a Joker quit being mayor. And Ivy's like, oh no, he was impeached after he paralyzed Babs. And Harley says that she wonders how, she's doing, because, she hasn't seen her since the, how do I put it? Ivy's like, the spectacular flame out of the Gotham City Sirens. So there's a flashback of Catwoman, Ivy, and Harley in the sewers, and it says it's 1 year earlier. So Barbara says, she's on, as Oracle, on the radio. She says it's imperative that they're quiet so they don't wake Enchantress, her skeleton army. So they walk up to her, sleeping on this creepy bed in the sewers, And Catwoman points out the big jewel on her chest. She's like, the heart of darkness. And Ivy's like, wait, a diamond? She's like, you said Enchantress was polluting Gotham's water supply with her army of cremains. She's like, that's what you said. And Barbara's like, we're here to get information on Nightwing's stolen body, remember? And Ivy's like, did Enchantress poison the water supply, or did you lie to us yet again? And Catwoman's like, I say a lot of things. Are they true? Who's to say? And she's like, you. And then Enchantress's eyes open. But Ivy's like, you're to say. It's like, we're your fudging teammates, and you lie about every single mission we go on. And Barbara's like, just keep your voices down. And Harley's like, I'm just here because you said I get to bash some bony-ass poop out of some skellies. And Enchantress is awake, and she like floats up. How dare you? And they all like curse. Skeletons like growl, and they rise up. And she's like, get them. So Harley's happy because she gets to smash stuff. But they reform, like magically reform after getting smashed. Ivy's using vines to grab Enchantress. Catwoman says, like, that necklace has a demon inside and is worth a fortune. So Harley's like, another stupid gem? This is like the 100th one you tricked Ivy and me into stealing. Barbara's like, and me. She's like, there's 4 of us here, remember? And Harley's like, what do you even do with all that money? And Catwoman's like, besides pay for my penthouse you 2 freeloaders stay at? Barbara radios a Harley, like, on your right. And she swings, but she hits Catwoman, who bumps into Ivy, and a vine snaps and knocks the bat out of Harley's hand. Because I think she actually swung left. And then they're like pinned down, and the skeleton asks, he's like, what are you 3? And Barbara's like, there's 4 of us. So they say they're the Gotham City Sirens, and he's like, a plant, a cat, and some sort of clown thing. And they're like, uh-huh. And Ivy's like, it's like the 3 of us aren't really a team. And Barbara's like, 4 of us. She's like, that's it. I am out. She's like, I'm better off alone. And Catwoman's like, so would I. I'm out too. Ciao, ciao. And she jumps out and she grabs the jewel. Enchantress is like, gasp. She's like, my necklace. So then she and the skeleton, they chase after Catwoman. And Harley's like, I guess this is the end of the Gotham City Sirens. So in the present, Ivy's like, but it's been nice, just relax, not worrying about fighting for anyone. And Harley's like, yeah, we don't need anybody because we're Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. We're Gotham's most bestest, titillatingest, most excitingest couple ever. They continue walking, talking about dinner, like, what are they going to do? A couple gets, this guy's proposing to him, and they get grabbed by Man-Bat. This kid's skipping a stone over like green glowing water. So the place is just, Gotham is like ruined. Then Clock King and Riddler come like power walking in matching tracksuits, and they're like, ugh. So they think Ivy, and they're like, oh, look, matching outfits too, because they have sweats on too, even though Harley's is pink and Poison Ivy's is purple. Riddler says that he's like, oh, I'm a birthday brat. You didn't come to my party. And Clock King's like, oh, no. I was like, I didn't invite them because they don't go out anymore. They've clocked out. And they're like, that's second, like, clock joke you make or whatever. So they talk about the things that they do to keep the sparks burning, or else you end up one of those sexless, boring couples, and they leave. Harley and Ivy just like scoff at them. But then Ivy says that she knows that what they can do tonight. Then we see a talk show, that whatever show is with Tawny. So Ivy's idea was that they eat dinner where they sleep. So Harley's all about that. So they're watching TV in bed. There's pizza and like Chinese food containers on the bed, and they're still in their sweats. So Lois Lane is a guest on the talk show because she's like, Pulitzer Prize winner expose on Lex Luthor finally sent him to jail. So Tawny, she's like, I want to know if Superman wears his underwear under the underwear or over or in between or something like that. And Harley wonders, like, did Lois get her neck done? And Ivy says that they all get their necks done in Metropolis. And then Lois says that, she's like, I thought we were going to talk about my accomplishments. And Tawny says that she's hosting the opening gala at a Metropolis Superman Museum. And then she's like, where's my invite, girl? And Lois says, sorry, it's a Metropolis exclusive event. It's the most exciting event of the year. And Tawny's like, oh, don't tempt me. It's like, this is like a comet, a once-in-a-lifetime event. And she says she wishes she can go. And Harley jumps up and says that they've got to go. And like the covers go flying, like plates crash. Ivy's like, really? And Harley's like, when was the last time we went out on a Saturday? It's like, the museum is supposed to be all about everything that helps Superman. And Harley said that she saved him on Luthor's moon base, and he never thanked her. She's like, I don't know if we should leave Gotham. And then she asked, Catwoman's like there for some reason. And she's like, what do you think? And she's like, you're going. And Harley's like, please, 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 please. And Ivy's like, oh, fine. So Metropolis, the sky, the buildings, the water, it's super clean, everything compared to Gotham. They arrive, they're in fancy gowns. They comment about how it smells so nice there. And she's like, in Gotham, even the nicest people smell like piss. So inside the place, Bruce Wayne comes up to him. And he's like, oh, I thought I smelled pee. Harley asks if he's there for some secret BAT thing. And he's like, no, I'm focusing more on what really matters, my family, business. So he said he decided to build a new Wayne Enterprise Tower here after the last one was destroyed by moon laser. He says that he's like, oh, I can see I'm boring you. He's like, the real reason I'm here is to support my girlfriend, Lena. She's always so busy. And then Lena, she comes up and they start talking. She says something like, oh, don't boss him around too much or he might fall for you. And she's like, he likes to call me Martha. And Bruce kind of like nervous laughs or whatever. He's like, oh no, she's definitely joking. So Lois goes on stage. She tries cracking a joke, whatever, but like doesn't work. And so she introduces a lady who made this all possible, Lena Luthor. And Harley and Ivy are shocked. Like, that's Lex's sister? So Lena says that, they may think it's weird that, her, she's a Luthor funding a Superman exhibit, but she just wants to make it clear that she's not her brother. She has a full head of hair. And people laugh. And Lois she's like, oh, she thinks the joke's just a little obvious. She's like, well, whatever. So she starts talking about what they're going to do, and they're going to end the night unveiling the most cherished artifact in Superman's history. So Harley asks Ivy, she's like, what do you think the artifact is? And she's like, it can't be Krypto's ashes. And Ivy's like, no, what's here? So he's like getting his picture taken with Superman. Then Harley starts yelling out, Superman, Superman, to try to get his attention, but he's like, he can't leave because he's getting his picture taken. Krypto's kind of like flying, jumping around, whatever. But then he hears Jimmy Olsen calling for help. So Superman flies out and sees that he's already being saved by this like automated drone security thing, because Jimmy's bow tie got caught in an automatic door and it was like choking him. So it saved him and it gave him a mint. So Superman wasn't needed, and it seems like it really bothers him. Then the Sentry droid thing starts scanning Harley and Ivy because they went out too. And it somehow figures out that they don't have tickets for the entry, so they get thrown out. But they land in a super comfy mattress. So she just wants to take a nap there because it's so nice. But Harley wants to steal the prize, the artifact thingy. They sneak back in. They're dressed like blue and like blue tops and like red shorts, and they're supposed to be like ribbon aerialists or whatever. Doing the work on the big giant ribbon things. I hope you know what I'm talking about. So they're going through, working their way up to the top where the artifact is in this like case. Superman's busy. He's like sitting, like eating like cookies or something like that because he's upset. And then the droids start fighting them because it sees that they're going after the artifacts, or they don't belong there. So they're swinging around, fighting, going all this stuff. People are cheering. And then Lena walks up. She's like, let's give it up for our stunt spectacular, everyone. And then she grabs the artifact from them because they finally made it to the ground. And she's like, it's time to show off Superman's most cherished item. She opens it up, and Harley's like, was that his underwear? And Lena's like, his first cape. It's like the blanket he was wrapped in when he arrived on Earth. So they leave the stage. Harley talks about how exciting that was. Ivy says that, they don't need manufactured fireworks to show how hot of a couple they are. They can just sit around and do nothing. So they can go back to the hotel. They go there. They're like in bed, whatever, doing stuff. There's a knock at the door. There's a gift basket there. So they're on the front page of the paper. There's a photo that Jimmy Olsen took when they were like swinging on the ribbons. Lena sent them an invite to meet at this tavern restaurant thing. Ivy doesn't really want to go because she's a Luthor, but Harley says she'll probably pay for the meal. So she's like, oh, okay. At the restaurant, they comment how it's not really a happening place. Lena walks in. She's like, oh, Dad, I rented the whole place out. So they notice that she's wearing the Heart of Darkness. And Ivy's like, there's no way I'm trusting someone who wears a demon on a necklace so casually. And she's like, demon? She's like, I got this from Sotheby's. And, they're like, Catwoman. But then she's like, you're right to be apprehensive. She's like, all I want to do is make sure Metropolis remains a perfect city of tomorrow. And she asks Ivy, she's like, what do you think of Centennial Park? And she's like, I may have run the committee that planned it. And Ivy's like, it's pretty good. And Harley's like, you told me it was the best use of green space you've ever seen. And she's like, okay, it's good. But the rest of the city is all chrome and it's sterile. It's like there's zero greenery elsewhere. It's depressing. And Lena says, well, you're right. She's like, what do you suggest we do about it? And Ivy makes a bunch of plants grow like all around them in the restaurant, top of the restaurant. There's like this big flower, and Lena goes to smell it, and it like kind of opens up, knocks the necklace off her, and it like hits the ground and like bursts, and there's a bunch of purple smoke. The demon starts laughing maniacally. It's Eclipso. He's like floating. He starts going on about how he's going to do all this stuff. And then Harley, whoosh, literally knocks his head off with the baseball bat. The head completely gone from his body. And like blood, like just splatter like all over Lena. But, she's fine with it. And she's like, I love it. And she's like, I love you. And what? She says, Harley, she's completely unpredictable and exactly what they need here. Superman zips in. He's like, trouble. He's like, where's the trouble? He's like, I heard a demon. And then the head was like stuck in the vines or something like that. And it falls into his hands. He's like, oh, you took care of it. Cool. He's like, I guess you don't need me anymore either. Nobody needs me anymore. So he just like kind of floats away. Harley's like, oh, I'll take one for the team. So he's like kind of sitting like on the edge of, the restaurant because it's way high up or something like that. He's like all sullen. And she's like, I've been thinking about busting into the Metropolis Federal Reserve. And she's like, did you hear me? You didn't even, blink. He's like, oh, no, you're not serious. He's like, your heart's beating too slow. And he's like, besides, the Robotron security, would stop you. And she's like, well, it didn't stop me from stealing your baby blankie. He's like, sure it did. It's still safe in the museum. The system calculated the best way to stop you is to let you win. Crime isn't possible here. He's like, that museum isn't a testament to my achievements. It's a tomb, and I'm a relic. And she's like, okay, that sucks. He's like, yeah, it sucks. So, and Harley, like her reflection shows her as like Dr. Quinzel, so she's in psychiatrist mode. And she's like, sounds to me like you're in a rut. You spent so long defining yourself by your career and your goals, but a rut doesn't mean life's ending, okay? It means you need a new beginning. When's the last time you took a vacation? He's like, a few months ago I went to space to alter the Earth's rotation and turn it back time to undo Lois's death. And she's like, okay, when's the last time you went to space for fun? Metropolis may not need Superman, but you know who does? Superman. I've never taken a break. Who am I if I'm not Superman? And she's like, figuring that out sounds like the adventure of a lifetime. He's like, gosh darn it, you're right. It's time Superman went on sabbatical. And I think I'll take that cool reporter, Clark Kent, with me. And he's like, huh, that's the second time you've saved me, Harley. Whoosh. And she's like, and still no thank you. So then she, tells Ivy, what happened. And she's like, yeah, he just pieced out, and he's totally cheating on Lois with some guy named Clark Kent. Ivy's like, so I've heard they spend a lot of time together, but no one ever sees them in the same room, kind of like they're hiding. And she's like, hiding from Lois, and they both laugh. And Ivy's like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I'm going to miss this view. And Harley's like, ugh, it's too bad that we're going back to Gotham. And then both are like, I think we should say, and they're like repeating each other, just saying the same thing. And Ivy's like, when Harley was with Soups, Lena made her an offer to run a Metropolis Green Initiative, so she would get to turn the Silver City into the greenest place on Earth. And there they don't view her as a villain. And Harley says, maybe Metropolis is their fresh start. And she's like, we should buy a condo. Ivy's like, you bought a condo, didn't you? And she's like, well, I couldn't resist the deal. She's like, lists these like numbers. Ivy's like, what a-hole would give you such a bad deal? And then she's like, it was Bruce, right? Bruce Wayne. And yeah. So Ivy's like, fudge it, I'm in. And they like smooch. Then she's like, oh, I thought you'd need more convincing to be this spontaneous. Ivy's like, well, you must be rubbing off on me. And she's like, oh, and I got an appointment with Lois's neck person. So they're like, you're at Metropolis, we're getting new necks. And then Brainiac is like scanning a bunch of stuff, like all the plants in there, and then like Harley and Ivy, and he's like, what a mess. So Brainiac's coming to town. They're going to be in town, and Superman's not going to be there. So that's what we can expect on Harley Quinn. So like I think I don't remember if I said it now at this point. It's this episode, it was fine. It wasn't as annoying. And I know that might be kind of weird, but yeah, so it was good. It was fine. Okay, and now the movie feature is Wolfman. And I totally did a rookie mistake. As I was recording, actually, I lost some of Harley Quinn, like right before this. My SD card filled up, and I didn't notice it on my recorder, and I'm so annoyed. And what had happened is, because I delete the files off there, but I didn't clean out the trash. So they were still on the SD card, even though I deleted them. So I had finished the podcast, and now it's like super late now. And I did this part. I already said everything I wanted to say about Wolfman. Now I need to try to repeat it, and like I don't know if I'm going to say everything that I wanted to say, but there wasn't a whole lot. So the thing with Wolfman, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. So I just want to make that clear. I mentioned earlier, and because this is a Blumhouse movie, so I haven't even heard about this movie up until like a couple weeks ago, I think it was. And I was like, oh, Blumhouse is doing a Wolfman? Because there was that other Wolf movie with Frank Grillo that I was like, I'm not seeing that. So I was like, Blumhouse, Wolfman? Okay, yeah, I'll watch that. And then I hadn't seen any trailers, and it was just getting closer. I was like, well, I'm going to see it. So I don't need to see the trailers. Like, I already know I'm going to see it. So going into it, it's so weird. It's like an hour and 43 minutes. I felt like there wasn't a whole lot to it. I felt like it went by pretty quickly. And even though I guess it didn't, but I was kind of let down. And even though I didn't necessarily have like high expectations or anything, since I didn't know anything about it, but I think maybe deep down I did have some expectations. And I think what it comes down to is of like the Universal monsters. Like I've always kind of liked the Wolfman, and it may go back to when I was a kid. I remember buying this like rubber mask, and it was a decent quality, and I think I only paid $15. I don't think I paid $30 for it, back then. But it's like a fur mask, like long hair, kind of, and it had just like a rubber face and snout. And you put the whole thing on your head. And what was cool about it is you could just wear it, even though it was more like a wolf than like a Wolfman. You could just wear it with like a hoodie or whatever, because it's just like, oh, that's just my head to change. And I didn't have like wolf gloves or anything like that, but I was something about it. And I had that mask for the longest time, and I don't know where it's at. I don't know if my parents got rid of it, but I don't think I brought it with me when I moved. So I think I wanted this movie to do well, and it is well done, because the director, which I should mention, that Lee Whannell, he did the 2004 Saw. Wait, what did he do? So he wrote these. So James Wan directed a bunch of these. Dead Silence, Insidious Chapter 2. His directorial debut was Insidious Chapter 3. He also directed Upgrade in 2018, which I like that. Invisible Man 2020, which I think a lot of people like that one, and then this movie. So it's weird that it kind of fell flat a little bit. And I hate to say it, but also like Julia Garner, I never finished Ozark, even though I always want to. But something like about her hair just kind of bugs me. I can't quite place it. And I feel like horrible for saying that, because who am I to talk about my hair or whatever? But you think about this movie, and I think the reason I'm not being as articulate, and not that I'm always articulate, but it's like, what can I? There's not a whole lot I can say about the movie. And I mean, you look at the poster. The movie's called Wolfman, and you look at the poster. There's a woman and a child. Who's the Wolfman? Who could the Wolfman possibly be? And that's basically the movie. So what it does, it does. I mean, it looks gorgeous. Like I don't know if it actually. I didn't look up if it's actually filmed in Oregon, but it starts off like in 1995. There's this. I think it was 1995. There's this dude and his son. They're out there hunting, and like the dad's like kind of harsh. He's. The kid, like, they see a deer, and like the kid goes off. He's like, I told you to stay by me, and like all this stuff. He's just like yelling at him, and he's like, you got to be safe, and you got to listen, do what I say, and this is like, it's like a situation where the kid's like, yes sir, yes sir. So it's like very intense. But then apparently something happened and the dad disappeared during a hike, and yeah, you don't know what it is. So then it cuts to him as an adult, and he has a daughter, and they're like in I don't know what. Oh, I didn't realize. Okay, I'm just looking this up. He lives in San Francisco. I thought it was like New York or something like that. So they live in San Francisco, and so he's during the city, he's hanging out with his daughter, having this great day, doing all this stuff, and she's like, "Oh, can we get ice cream?" And he's like, "You already had all this stuff." But at one point, she hops up on those like orange like construction divider things. And he's like, "Hey, you need to get down from there, because if she slips, she's in traffic." So when she hops down, she like almost bumps into like this homeless guy, and the homeless guy like says something and gets in her face, and he's like, "You got to listen. I told you not." And then she's just like kind of freaked out, and he's like, I'm sorry, that's not who I want to be," because that's how his dad was. So with that, you get some character development where you kind of get a sense of what he must have dealt with growing up, and he's trying to avoid that. And where they lived in Oregon, I mean, it was like in the middle of nowhere. I mean, like I said, it was gorgeous. There's this valley that they reference. So I don't know if they lived there all the time. How long did he live there? Because it was pretty desolate. He at home, and I'm gonna try not to spoil the whole movie, but like I said, there's not a whole lot. So they're like working, about dinner's about to be served. Wife Julia Gardner, she's like a reporter, and she comes in, she's on the phone, she's talking, and he's like, "Can you not do that in here? We're about to have dinner and stuff like that." And she kind of gives him this look, whatever, finish her call, and she's like, "Can you not do that when I'm taking a call?" He's like, so there's like this tension between the two, where and he also got this like a letter, like a registered thing, and it's like the state of Oregon has finally declared his father as dead because he had been missing for all this time. And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and it's like that. Then so he's saying that he needs to go back to the place and just pack up whatever stuff, and then he's like, "Why don't we all go?" And he goes to her work the next day and suggests it. And she's like, I can't take off work. He's like, "You can work remotely, or you can work on your novel, and you can spend time with our daughter and everything, because she's working a lot." And she's like, "I don't think I can do that anymore." And he's like, "Well, sure, you can write." And she's like, "No, I don't, to be a mother," because she hasn't really been spending time with her and that. So they end up going, and just say that like as they're trying to find the place because it's so remote, like something pretty intense happens, and it just boom, boom, boom. It starts getting it just starts going. So I was like, wow. Even though you had this whole like intro stuff like that kind of happens. Now, I don't think I said this. Is one thing that's a little different. This isn't like your typical Wolfman, movie, where a lot of times it's like, okay, someone gets bit or someone already is or whatever, and then it's like chase. It's all about that. There's more about this. It's like how it happens, and like seeing the transformation. So it's not like boom. Even though I'm saying things kind of happen fast paced, it's not like boom, Wolfman already. What does end up happening? Obviously, I don't know how the movie was built, since I haven't watched the trailer. I don't know if again, looking at the poster, you see the mother and the daughter. Where's the father? The father is going to be infected. So we spend a good chunk of the movie like seeing him like slowly change. And the reason that happened is because if you think about it, there's another Wolfman or something out there. So as they're in this little house, because like something happened, their vehicle, they can't just like, let's go back home. So they're kind of stuck there for a while, and then like kind of middle of nowhere. Luckily the place has a generator. They got electricity in it. But as he's like kind of changing and it's like, how safe is he to be around? Because this is his wife and daughter, but if he's changing and the other thing is, there's like legends and stuff like that. It's like, what do they know? How do they know what's going to happen to him? And I would be like, you need to go like out in the barn and deal with this on your own while we lock up in here, because it's like, is he just gonna like boom, all essence of him is gone, and he's just gonna try to like eat them or something? But then there's this other thing out there as well, so it's just like that's where things get a little tense. So there are some moments of suspense, and there is some like gruesome stuff, and it's not like over the top, like too much gruesome, but it's like a good amount where it's like, okay, let's actually see some a bit of gore, not a lot of gore, but it's, so I think that was well balanced and to make it feel like more. But yeah, then after that, it's like, without going through the rest of the movie, it's like there's really not a whole lot, and that's where I was just kind of bummed. I was like, that's it. I was like, okay. So it's just, like I said, I think I just wanted more, and it's just, it was a bit of a letdown. So the movie itself, let's just talk about this. The budget was $25 million. The reception, let's see how it did box office. So it opened in the United States, Canada, alongside One of Them Days, which I don't know what that is. Okay. It was projected to gross 15 to 21 million from 4-day Martin Luther King weekend. Variety said the wildfires of Los Angeles not expected to affect the film's box office performance. After Wolfman made 4.5 million on its first day, included estimated 1.4 million from Thursday night previews, which Deadline Hollywood noted was lower than the 1.65 million earned in previews by Winelli's better received than Invisible Man in 2020. The projections were lowered. It's now expected to finish third and not first at the box office, behind Mufasa and One of Them Days. So with the Rotten Tomatoes, it's at a 54% from critics and a 60% from the audience. So not great. Let's see, the critic consensus. Director Lee Whannell's attempt at bringing a fresh psychological dimension to the Wolfman comes at the expense of proper scares, although fans of body horror will still find some tasty morsels to chew on. And some critic reviews, this is not your typical gothic werewolf tale, then but a dour domestic drama in wolf's clothing. I appreciate Whannell's willingness to think outside the box, but it just doesn't work, except in a comic sense, in this badly scripted, poorly acted film. I don't know about that. Because in this next one, it says, even if it starts better than it ends, Wolfman merits a look, not only for the craft on display, but for the powerful performances from Abbott and Garner, not to mention Jagger and Firth. A cast as strong deserves a script with more to tear into. And ABC News Australia, Whannell strips away much of the familiar mythology, adding a fresh ripple to the tale with a tense, almost claustrophobic thriller that focuses on family and the darkness lurking within. So I don't know. There's nothing much more to say about it. It's I do feel it's worth watching. If you're into like horror movies or genre suspense stuff, it could have been better. It should have been better. It's a little bit of a letdown, and I know that's not selling it. But there's some cool parts to it. Like I said, the scenery is great, and just I don't know. I mean, 60, 55%, whatever it was. So I don't think I'm being overly harsh, but I just wish it could have been better. And I think the part of the challenge is to do a movie like this and to make it feel real without coming across as just like cheesy rubber monster, type of thing. And I think by going more into the legend of like how, this could happen helps it a bit. But I don't know, just like the transformation parts. And I will say there's one of the nasty parts, like nails popping off, like when, bones growing, and but it was just I wish it was better. So that's it. There's nothing more to say. I do think it's worth checking out if you like horror, and I wouldn't even really call it a horror movie. It's more of a suspense movie. but it's worth checking out at some point. Does it have to be in a big theater? It's got nice background and scenery, and some of the sound is good, to get things, pumping. But yeah, so that's it. That's all I have to say. So thank you for listening. So big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a huge supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I'm currently looking at the 1967 classic Amazing Spider-Man by Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. We got some like Doc Ock stuff going on. I don't know if I'll do this next week as well. Maybe probably do it off of my mind soon, but I haven't really even thought about like what I could possibly talk about. So we'll see. But if you can't commit to monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck. Buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. So what is going to be next week? I believe, I already said this before and I totally forget. I believe next week's movie feature is going to be Flight Risk, possibly. So Flight Risk is a Mark Wahlberg, like, plane thriller, whatever. I haven't fully watched the trailer. I kind of saw some of it, so I'm not really sure what the whole premise is, but, it could be fun. There's also, I did see a trailer when I saw Wolfman for Presence, which I haven't heard about this before. It's Steven Soderbergh ghost story movie, and I don't know how this will be. Lucy Liu's in it, Chris Sullivan, Helena Lang, Julia Fox, Eddie Mayday. I don't know. Yeah, I think I got to look into that and see, because Presence is put out like through Neon. Yeah, so one of those two. I feel like Presence could possibly be a more interesting movie. Flight Risk could be, a fun action movie, but there may not be a whole lot of substance to it. This is more about the action, maybe. Presence could be more story driven, but I don't know if it's going to be like, it's just silly. So I got to figure that out. And then the following week on the 31st, hopefully I'm going to see that Companion. So with Sophie Thatcher. Oh, and Jack Quaid. So that looks weird. I saw a trailer for that too. That's the thing. When I saw the movie, it was like 25 minutes. I had to go to a different theater, not my normal theater, different chain. It's like 25 minutes of trailers. It's like, come on, man. Yeah, that's going to be next week. And then, what's it called? Severance, definitely Severance. Harley Quinn, and I think that's it for TV. We'll see. Maybe something else will pop up that I'm just not thinking about. So I'm still, and again, I apologize for this week. It's just the whole David Lynch thing has just really caught me off guard, and it's just a bummer. But I hope you are doing well. I hope you're hanging in there. I hope you're taking care of yourself. And I hope you remember, be good to each other.